I've worked.
Over. Make sure everybody signs in, please. We're gonna start. We're gonna start the meeting. Running a little late.
Yes,
I
Are you very happy?
Yes, I am.
Welcome everyone to the workshop. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Mr. Malloy.
Here.
Mr. Bernard.
Here.
Mr. Hernandez.
Here. Okay, so one, dispense reading of the minutes of the workshop on February 4. 2, dispense reading of the minutes of the special meeting January 5. 3, approve bills. Martha, it's you.
Just a second, it will be.
Okay, 4,
Give me a
authorize Auditor Yoder.
Yep.
Sign. Oh, you want
I can
to
talk about
speak on your behalf?
I will be glad
Ms.
to.
Yoder?
Yes, sorry. All right. This
Name
is
and-
Martha Yoder, Trumbull County Auditor. This is what I presented. It's been presented to you twice now. 2 weeks ago, Chief Deputy Tim Hanford talked about it. I also talked about it a little bit last week. I brought you the further information. This is just the agenda item that makes that resolution so that we can move forward on the electric for our.
Commissioner Malloy, we had some discussion on this. We had some representation from that group. Is there anything moving on this that we need to know?
They submitted something in writing. I never got a copy of it from the clerk, and
Okay.
unless you guys want to address it or bring it up, I'm out.
Yeah, okay. 5, authorize Dimitri Leotis, Administrator of the Workforce Development Board, to submit Workforce Development Board recertification application to the state of Ohio as required by Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Workforce Board recertification process occurs every 2 years, which the board's composition is reviewed, as well as the process utilized to appoint workforce development board members. Processes are in order, and the board composition is in compliance with the act. Commissioners must sign the recertification application so it could be submitted to the state for approval. In addition, the commissioners are to each sign a conflict of interest form to facilitate the submission of the application. I don't know if anybody has any.
Commissioners here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Dimitri, Workforce Development Board. But I have the original documents that I'll give to the clerk is the conflict of interest form and the actual application that will go to the state. after you guys approve the motion tomorrow. I also got a little packet for you guys, just so you guys have. There
Thank
you
you.
are. Thank you. There you are. All right, in the packet, it's just simple. We are required every 2 years to certify the board through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. It happens every 2 years. What they do is they look at two things. They look at the composition of the board and also the process of nominating and selecting an individual to the board. In your packet, you have the actual application. It identifies all the requirements of the board. Where 50%, over 50, the majority of the board has to be a business representative. Then we have specific individuals that need to be on the board, things like union representation, labor organizations, apprenticeship programs, things to that effect. It's all listed out for you in the actual application that you'll be signing. The second page is the actual checklist that they would use at the state. So I use this as my model as well to make sure we're in compliance with everything. And as you can see, we are good. We have our majority of the board is employers 20 to 19. You can see that list as well. I also got a comprehensive list of all the board members with their terms and their expirations and whether they were nominated. Conflict of interest was signed by them, etc. And then the last one is an example of what they look for when they are reviewing the process. So of course, we need the CEO resolution, which is you guys, an actual nomination form, and then the assigned conflict of interest form by each of the members that join the workforce. I want to make sure you guys got that, and then of course, a copy of the conflict of interest policy that you guys sign off on to ensure that if there is a conflict of interest, you have this hold your vote and let the other vote away. So the process is very simple. It's a two-year process. Once you guys approve it tomorrow, then I'll bring it to the workforce board for final approval and submission to the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary, I think we've got the next probably.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I got a few items on the agenda. Yeah, Gary Schaefer, Trumbull County Engineer's Office. Number 6 is 6 and 7 both are for purchase. We're advertising for bids for the purchase of asphalt, concrete, and emulsion, and then bituminous materials for us to make boulders, pavements, and other materials. 8 and 9 are both bridge rehab projects that we're advertising for bids for. We got 100% grants through CAO, so those are going through our ODOT LPA program for bids in construction. 10, 11, and 12, then they're just standard permits.
That was painless.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary. Gary, do you have anything that we, on the bridge that you were gonna bring
Yeah,
up?
if you want to bring that up now, I saw Bill Danzo from the prosecutor's office too, came in, so he can jump in here too, but we'll have more to discuss in the future, I'm sure, on this. But for now, just to inform all 3 commissioners at this point, there's an event that's tentatively scheduled out in early May for a fundraiser for a nonprofit agency on the covered bridge there in Newton Falls. So it would have to be approved by the commissioners to close that bridge for this event. And again, I think it's for it's a fundraiser to raise money for that Veterans Center over there, the USL, I think it's called. So, very good event, good nonprofit. So they brought that forward to us. Step 1 would be permission from, commissioners, but also the Village of Newton Falls would have to approve this. So that's going to be our next call. I just wanted to educate the Board of Commissioners on that. We'll reach out to Newton Falls, make sure they concur, and I'm sure they do. They would have to close the road leading to the bridge. And,
You've already discussed it with prosecutor's office, Bill.
yeah, we got an opinion, not that specifically, but I've talked to him about that, but we got an opinion on a similar situation where Corsa was involved. And so there's a path to take on this, and this is just step 1, is informing the board. And then we'll bring a resolution in the near future too. The approval. There's some things we need to work on behind the scenes.
Okay.
What are you governing that on that?
Commissioners Phil Danso, Prosecutor's Office. I'll follow up with the board, kind of outside the meeting, just with some legal information that I have on that at a later point here, but we'll be in touch on it.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. 13, received a petition for proposed vacation of portion of Bay Street, which intersects Reed's Road within the Clubview plat. This is located in Howell Township, and to adopt a formal resolution setting for date, time, and place for both public viewing and public hearing on the proposed road vacation. Fourteen. Beth, issue, Beth,
Yes.
would you like to?
Yes, Beth Cotwas Carmichael with Trumbull County Tourism. Do I need a microphone?
Okay.
Awesome. Our board in 2023 decided that they wanted to not do not do membership dues for our members and open up Trumbull County services, Trumbull County Tourism Services to everybody in the county. That seemingly small change led us down a path of new bylaws. And we're asking the commissioners to approve the new bylaws, and by approving the new bylaws, that supersedes the old bylaws. There is a couple of different changes, which I didn't even put on here, but we have an extra board member. We've been serving as a 10-member board, so we've added an extra board member. So now we have a consensus with that. And then the Trumbull County Commissioners still have a seat on our board. We haven't made that change. We've designated ourselves, which we are in IRS standings, as instrumentality of government as opposed to a 501c6. The main difference between an instrumentality of government is that if we ever close, that money goes back to Trumbull County Commissioners for your distribution. If you are a 501c6, the money would have to go to like organizations. So those are just some of the minutia of bylaws that we've been dealing with for 2 years. So we're asking, as per our current bylaws, we're asking the commissioners to approve the new ones, which again will supersede the.
Hey, thank you, Beth.
Beth, with the old system, the membership had an annual meeting and voted in new members of the board. How are the members of the board gonna be chosen?
The members of the board will be chosen by the board of directors.
So the board will pick their next members to join them
Correct.
themselves?
We have
Not
a board,
membership.
we have a board matrix in place that looks at all areas of the county along with areas of need. So one of our challenges in the past is we haven't had an accounting professional. We haven't had a lawyer. So this opens us up to getting additional people with additional experiences.
So are they nominated by a board member, then an election if you have more than one
Yeah.
nomination?
Yes.
But the terms are the same as they do now.
We're
3-year
doing three,
terms,
right,
and they
there's
can sit
a
out.
3-year term, they're now in a previous revision, there were. I think a 4-year term and then they had to step off. It's 2 3-year terms and then they have to step off for at least a year before they could, if they choose to come back on. What we found early on since I've been here is our board members they felt like after 3 years, they were just getting the hang of it and then they were off the board again. So it's a continuity of experience and understanding of what we do and, so, you know, all of that sort of stuff that helps them from a leadership perspective. And I've brought, Becky Whitman is, one of our board members and Stacy Hoover from Hawkeye Barbecue is our president this year.
Welcome. Nice to see you, Beth. Oh, is it, what, Cockeye Bar, what is it?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Heard a lot of great things.
Best barbecue in the.
Really good.
Has anybody been
It's
there?
really good.
Only everybody in this room is eating there except for you.
Listen, I'm a Hubbard guy, you know.
Make your way.
Party, because I treat my staff a cockeye every year at Christmas, so you can try
Okay.
it. It's always very
Make
good.
sure you journalize that, Raymond. That, Put that in the.
Ray wants to be
We
invited.
found the needle in the haystack, right? His name's Rick Hernandez.
Okay, thank you. Beth.
Thank you.
One last thing, I guess, with the board thing. So eliminated dues, so anyone that's in the industry
they're-
then is welcome to join for free and they just
That's-
call you and they're signed up.
Correct. So what we've been doing for the last year is if somebody reaches out to us and says, hey, we want to be on your website, we want to be in your visitor's guide. We vet them because they have to be a visitor serving business. So Joe's Plumbing, unfortunately, will not, we won't be promoting Joe's Plumbing on our website. So they have to be a visitor serving business. As they're vetted, then they are included in those things. In exchange for the revenue that we have been collecting for membership dues, which have been really small, our membership dues were only $50 a year. We're exchanging that with a co-op marketing program that we're going to be announcing in the next week or so. And we're doing a big kickoff for that co-op marketing at the beginning of March. And then again, visitor serving businesses are welcome to participate. We'll be getting some more information out on that.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, 15, to authorize Rick Hernandez, President of the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners, sign a notice to proceed letter for DeSalvo Construction from Hubbard for the Howland Scope Center Improvement Project. It's funded through the PY 2023 Community Development Program, EF 231CS1, Project 1 Activity 2, and CDBG Revolving Loan Fund. Contracts in the amount of $219,100, $172,536 CDBG, and $46,564 CDBG RLF. Where base bid and alternate M1 was awarded by the Board Trumbull County Commissioners, January 15, 2025. Julie brought us up to speed a little bit on all this at the planning meeting. 16, to amend Commissioners' regular meeting agenda of October 30, 2024, item number 38, JB 158, page 26877-26878, that read.
Commissioner,
Do you want to
explain
do
that?
that?
I can. And if Gary wants to chime in, and Mark, we have a Trumbull County auditor. And the reason this was done by Julie is she had actually originally written, or her office, I should say, originally written the MOU. This is a Stillwagon Road project, which Gary can kind of inform you of this. It's an ARPA project. We did this as an MOU prior to the end of the year in order to obligate the funds. Because if we didn't do that, it would have, we would have had to get the funds back. So we wanted to make sure that we could complete this project. And so Julie worked very hard on several of these so that we would have these memorandums of understanding which act as an obligation. Unfortunately, there were just some typos on this. They call it a scrivener's error is what the technical term for is. And so this is just correcting the typos. That's all we're doing with this. And which is we're honestly trying to get these done in a really quick fashion before the end of the year. I'm not surprised that we haven't put a more, but I discovered these as we were working. I was assisting Cheryl a little bit with the reporting. We realized that we're here. We corrected, reached out to Attorney Rogers. She said that told us exactly how to correct it, and Julie wrote it. So,
And while we're on the subject of ARPA, and a little conversation with Sharon, just so if anybody is waiting for checks, because I've had a lot of people asking, where's my check? Where's, it is, intensive, and there are some things that Sharon needed to work on to get these checks cut in advance. And so it may drag a bit. So we need our people to understand, we need our residents to understand, or those communities, that you will receive these checks, but be patient because it's taken some time.
Mark, the Trumbull County auditor, yeah, I can speak to that just a little bit to help out so that folks understand. A couple things. First of all, our concentration, especially towards the end of the year, was to get all of this money obligated and included in that encumbering those the grants, which is what you're speaking to. So getting those things encumbered took a precedence, getting those purchase orders done. And we had a flurry at the end to try to get everything done as people who watch will recall. So that had to take precedent in order, because we had that deadline of December 31st, 2024. So we had to get everything covered. And both Sharon and Chrissy works on this as well, that their efforts were concentrated. The other part of this is that for every single one of these grants, there's paperwork that has to be accomplished, items that have to be turned in. And so we have to go through and make sure everything is done for such a. So she has to work her way through that. In the interim, as part of that, there's that reporting process that we have to do. That was due at the end of January, and it was very intensive. It's a lot of time that Sharon has to give to that, as well as for others. So it is I know it takes a while, but there's reasons for it taking a while. We're not sitting on it going, we don't have money right now. Things have steps have to be accomplished.
Thank you, Martha. Gary, I guess Gary Newbrow, we can move forward with one of these.
Okay, Commissioners, item 17, this is the private extension agreement with Project Penguin, which is actually Amazon out there on Perkins Jones Road. This is just standard agreement we go with them into with the developer. And we're pleased with this project. They have agreed to not only extend the sewer to the Amazon property privately and pay for it all, but they have also agreed to extend the 6-inch service connections out to everybody's property. Normally, a developer doesn't have to do that. He just leaves a line in place. Property owners are going to be responsible to take line all the way to the main line, no matter which side of the road it's on. But in this case, they agreed to go ahead and extend those 6-inch service connections up to the property lines. It's a good deal for the county.
Are they covering our costs too, Gary? Your work with us in engineering and labor costs?
Yes, matter of fact, but yes, we put that into the agreement. For our inspectors and that sort of thing out on the project site, be reimbursed for that. All right, the second one, this is well, second and third. These were on last week. We used the wrong project fund number. We needed to change that to the project fund number you see here. And this was the award of the SLAP contracts, phase 2, and the MJD and Express Under.
Thank you, Gary. Number 20, moved the table commissioners regular meeting of February 5, 2025, item number 14. Read as follows: to appoint 3 Trumbull County residents in compliance with Ohio Revised Code 570985, A2 as members of the Trumbull County Tax Incentive Review Council in the term of February 1, 2025 through January 1, 31/26. Commissioner Malloy, you know a bit more about this, don't you?
And with this is, we talked last week about reappointing myself, Mark Phillips, and Nancy Weibel. Nancy declined. And then they had a replacement that they named, but we found out that he's not a Trumbull County resident. So we still need one more person before we make the appointment tomorrow. So between tonight and tomorrow, commissioners, if we find one person wants to serve on that Tax Center Review Council that is a Trumbull County resident, you know, gladly consider that to add them on there for tomorrow.
You know, 21,
That's who it is.
what is going on? Is this?
Yes,
Is
that's the name
Yeah,
that
so this is-
Coggins gave me, that I did have confirmation as to whether the person wanted to be on.
Okay, so he gave you a name, but we haven't checked with this new person yet. Yeah, next on in today.
This afternoon.
Yeah, we'll have to call and see, get some form of resume, some form of background on the person before.
So 21 is, depending on whether or not we can get a hold, just to confirm.
Okay.
I think he's recommended by the labor. By Jim Taylor,
Yes.
Okay,
because Jim didn't live in the county.
Right.
And I think Jim got back and.
but did we talk to this person to see if they even knew about it, or if it's just a name that Just throwing out, we need to check on that.
I mean, Nick reached out to him, but I don't know if he decided.
Okay.
Well, we can put it on as is and then
Leave it
if there's a
on.
problem, then we take it off.
Well, I mean, we got plenty of time between tonight and tomorrow to make a phone call to see if
Yeah.
this gentleman's interested and find a little bit more about it on our own.
Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna turn it over to Mike Solomon with his new haircut. Fresh haircut.
Right there, son.
And
Commissioners, before we do that, Bill Danso, Prosecutor's Office, I know that this is going to be probably subject to quite a bit of discussion again. And I just wanted to recommend to the commissioners that because this went out as a competitive bid, I know that Mike has sort of invited or notified the vendors that this would be discussed. I would encourage the board to really not take discussion from the vendors because it was sent out as a competitive bid. Your award needs to be based on the bids as submitted. And the risk is the more discussion that comes up, the risk is that you guys might start to think about things that maybe were outside of those packages. So certainly people are welcome to attend, listen in, hear your decision-making process, but I would attempt to really cut back and maybe not allow the comments on this matter.
understood, and I agree. And I don't know, do we really, commissioners, need to go through this? We went through it last week. It's gonna be up for a vote tomorrow. So, I mean, Commissioner Malloy, Mike has presented this, we've been through it,
Right. We had some things to look at and I've yet to meet with the prosecutor to get the answers yet, which I'll plan on doing today. And I know we've all done our independent research a little bit since last week and hopefully we have enough info to make a decision, but
so you wanna just, we know what all this is. We went through this last week. We need to revisit it now. It'll be put on the agenda for tomorrow for
right.
vote,
And
depending on
then
what.
my big questions I had, just like you did, was
Right,
in the posting, did it say how many people we were gonna award it to? Was that put in there, and did we decide where a cutoff was on that, and then what are the deadlines to make a decision on this, get them secured definitely to see. But then again, like I said, we had some contention too, but I agree too, that as we said last week, we shouldn't be talking to any of the vendors, even the losing vendors. We shouldn't have an input on this
yeah.
until we award the contract with somebody. It taints the whole process to hear from anybody.
Commissioner Mike Selvich from County Transit. I believe you got two questions. The first one is how many we can award it to. There's nothing in the RFP that says we can award it to 1, 5. So there's nothing in there for that. I apologize. What was the second question? Or something else you had to,
Deadline
or,
for when we have to have it into the state, drop dead deadline on the.
well, okay, here's the way this is gonna work. This RFP, because I have to work with the state, because of state money, I started this back in May. So what are we talking, 6, 7 months here? So if I was to start this again, that would take us almost to I'm not saying November, but the problem is our drop down deadline is November 30th, because that's when our present contracts are done. And we would not have transportation at all. So as of November 30th, we're done. Our other problem is, which I found this out about a month ago, the state is going under their federal review this year, which means they're not gonna have time for this, or very little time for us to do another one, because I do know when the gentleman that worked on this with me is the same gentleman that puts the review or one the review together. And I do know he goes, get stuff into me, I'll get it back to you as soon as I can, but I'm also working on the review for vendors. So that's where we're at. No, bottom line is November 30th is our drop down date, but I don't know if I'd be able to get to the state to be able to get this done in time. So that's where we're at.
Question? Commissioner?
No, I don't have a problem with the way it is here. Let's just put it on and take a vote and see if it gets approved or not. I mean, it was advertised and set up and ready to go.
Okay, thank you. We,
24,
or whatever, 20,
I wrote mine.
yeah,
Okay, so the one is, I guess, started reading the, what is it called? I thought about it. To remove the, shirts. So 24 was to remove the shirts because they were starting to red at the meeting, so I'm assuming that's why it had to be on there.
Yes.
25 is the assurances, standard assurances certificate. What this is for, this is part that goes on to the final contracts. And it just states that these are certain rules because this is a federal grant that they have to follow. A lot of this is already in the RFP. We talked about last week, so this is nothing new. It's just, these are just things that have to.
And the prosecutor's office is. Have you guys looked at all this?
We went through the standard assurances and worked with Mr. Salamone on those, the prosecutor's office. I think the last remaining thing was he was verifying that the actual contracts to be signed by the vendors that ultimately get the award included those the reference to those federal assurances. But we have been working with him on that. And as far as I know, we were at the finish line of having that all done.
Yeah, so these have to be part of the actual, when the contracts go out to whoever the vendors are, these have to be part of the contract.
As long as we have further prosecutor's approval on this.
The one other question I had, you kind of answered for us last week. On these trips, the minimums quoted on here, is that one way or is that round trip
All
on
of
the
our
RFP?
sorry, Commissioner. All of our trips are always one-way trips. So if it's quoted at a minimum of $25, it's $25 one way.
Yeah. So if they go to a doctor's appointment and back,
$50. It's
Okay.
$50.
and then number of people in the vehicle is per person or is it per ride?
What do you mean, number of people in the vehicle?
Guy goes and his buddy wants to go to the doctor's with him, or his caretaker, or his wife, or his son.
Okay, so the way it works, part of this, I gotta back up a little bit. Part of it has to do with COVID. They used to try to put more people out in the vehicle, but because of COVID, we couldn't do it. So we kind of went to only one person in the vehicle at a time. Now they're starting to go back to more people. In regards to what you're asking,
I can't answer that.
oh,
I'm sorry,
okay, no, that's fine. So to answer your question, if husband and wife, if the husband's going to the doctor, the wife can go as a PCA, personal care attendant, PCA. They ride for free. In fact, it could be, doesn't have to be the spouse, it could be a daughter, it could be a friend. The key with the PCA is they have to ride, they have to get on the vehicle when the client gets on. They gotta go with them to the appointment and they gotta ride all the way back. They can't be dropped off somewhere in between. It's gotta be a complete trip and there's no charge for personal care. So that's what it is. So that would be having two people. Now, if a third person is going to the same area, you could have three people on there, two with one ride, one with a separate ride. And now we'd be $25, let's just say it's $25 minimum, so it's $25 for these two people and $25 for this one over here.
Gotcha.
thank you. 26, Casey, you want? This is 911.
Casey McDonough, 911 director. This is just a continuation of the agreement that we have with the city of Warren to dispatch for them each year. Usually that just auto kind of renews until the 911 final plan gets updated. I sent that stuff off to Bill at prosecutor's office and he's double checking some of the language to shore up some of that. So that we're hoping that the 911 final plan will be updated here within the next couple months. Then that has to go to the 911 planning committee board. Then it gets sent out to all the townships, villages and cities to adopt, and then it gets sent to the state for final adoption there. So this is just a continuation of last year's contract. It's basically an extension, nothing new, no wording changes or anything like that.
Same price structure.
Nothing changed. We kept everything the same this year.
Have our costs gone up at all?
Not really. Our staffing cost is down, obviously. We're still, expending a lot of overtime because of our staffing numbers. We're still at 17 full-time. Every time we take a step forward, we get knocked back 2 steps. We currently have 2 trainees that, one should be released next week into full-time status on his own. The other one is about 4 to 6 weeks out before he's released on his own. And then we have 2 that are brand new, within, I think week 2 to week 6 of their training. So they obviously have a ways to go before they'll be released. But on the cusp of that, we have one off on extended medical right now, and then another one that just was, injured the other day. That's going to be facing some medical time off as well. So it's like every time we get ahead and get a couple people hired and trained, we lose 1 or 2 to emergent issues.
I guess what I'm asking is, have our costs gone up? And
For providing the service for Warren.
For Warren, and if they have, we recoup that money.
So what we did, 2 years ago, I believe we changed the call for service from $5.75 or $5.50 per call for service to $7 per call for service. That's still way below what other communities are charging, but what we discussed during that whole process is you could say, well, we're gonna charge you $20 per call for service, and we're not gonna charge you for entering warrants or this or this or this or admin fees or all these various things. Or we could charge you $7 per call for service like what we're doing. The reason we went with 7 is it was an increase of about, I think, 10%. We were losing about 30% from this not being done every year as an annual review from previous administration, multiple administrations ago. It was supposed to be reviewed annually and it never was. What we did is when we proposed this, it went over like a lead balloon to these communities because obviously they can't afford a 30% increase, just like you guys can't afford the things you're facing, where people are just kicking it down the road. Same thing's happening in these townships and villages. Additionally, we did a decent chunk of a raise. We did about 10% with that increase, and we base it off of their run numbers. So if you have 1,000 calls times $7, that's what you're charged. Just for simple math, we'll do that. Warren obviously has the most calls in the community, so they're charged per call. So it's commensurate with what impact they're putting on us. Additionally, when we took over Warren Dispatch, we had taken on 6 dispatchers from them. We currently only have 1 of those dispatchers left due to retirements and various things. So with that being said, the reason I didn't take a look at it this year and raise it again is because with our increase that we got last year in the budget, which was the first time in over 12 years we received any type of increase in our budget, plus the additional income that we were bringing in from raising it from $5.50 to $7, we were able to operate within our budget and still afford to do some updates to equipment technology. We don't want to gouge these cities and villages who are just as broke as we are. And additionally, when we're as short-staffed as we are, I can't come back to you and say, hey, we're going to raise it another 10% when our staffing numbers are what we are. We're running skeleton crews. We used to run 6 or 7 per shift. Now we're running 4 on night shift, 5 to 6 on days, and 6 on afternoons. And that's if there aren't call-offs. If we get to full staff, and I say full staff, not in the number of what we're allotted for, which would be like 32. If we could get to 25, 26, 27, somewhere in there, then the next year I could say, yeah, let's try to go back and raise it a little bit and, bring in more money additionally. But right now I can't do that in good conscience because the service we're providing the same level of service that we have in years. We're not cutting any services, but we aren't raising the level of service that we're providing. Like I want to get to a standard where we are providing great customer service in addition to just getting people to the calls that they need to go to.
Casey, doesn't Warren get a discount off of that $7 a call? I thought they paid less than 7, but the rest of the county pays 7.
They get a discount off of it, but it's based on, because they cover the staff, the alleged 6 individuals. What we're trying to go to is where we don't have contracts with anybody, and it's just in the language of the 911 final plan of this is how much you're going to pay based off of those fees. it's hard to do Warren's contract based off of what they did years ago, because nobody is around from then to say how they came up with those numbers. There were a lot of various, well, we're gonna do this and we'll do this for you and this for you. We went with the $7 flat charge to basically try to streamline it. And then later in 10 years, when somebody says, why are you doing $7 for them and $4 for them, and $3 for them? Warren, I believe, it ends up being $4.50 per call based on their call volume. Or what the numbers are. They run over 20,000 calls per year. If we did it $7 like we do everybody else, they would be paying closer to, I think, $900,000 a year instead of $630,000 a year, which isn't commensurate with what their original intention was of the contract, of us having 2 dispatchers dedicated to Warren every time. The problem with what happened when we took on Warren is you still have people that, okay, well, Warren wants it done this way. This agency wants it done this way. We dispatch for 43 agencies, so it's hard to get a standard policy, procedure, and streamlined way of doing things when you have 43 bosses, essentially. We're trying to get to where it's the same service everywhere, and you're not doing specified things for Warren. They want things handled this way. Okay, so if pursuit's handled this way here, if pursuit's handled this way there, we want to get to where we get all the police chiefs, fire chiefs, all in one room. And we have some growing pains of getting everybody to agree that this is going to be the standard across the county of how we're going to do it. Because what happens when you have a dispatcher working Warren tonight and tomorrow she's working Hubbard and they want it done a different way? We got to get away from that. We got to get away from that personalized service of thinking that you work for Warren. You're not a Warren dispatcher. You're a Trumbull County 911 dispatcher. So that's what we're trying to get away from. And due to the fact that, you know, when we took on Warren and they used to pay for those 6 wages, they don't really do that anymore. We don't have those 6 people right now because the staff is what it's at.
So this is just an extension, it's not a new contract.
No, it's just an extension.
The safety director called me last week and he said that he wanted to do quarterly with an opt-out in case we changed things or we went to a new center. It wouldn't strap us down to a long-term contract. Is this like a hybrid of that? Is that why it's 1 year?
It's billed quarterly, which is how we bill all the other subdivisions as well, because we found it got a little bit monotonous and a little bit labor intensive to keep billing everybody monthly. That's a lot of work for Patty. It doesn't make sense when you know they're gonna pay you yearly, so we just break it down to quarterly. And I haven't heard anything back from them. I know they wanted to do quarterly. I didn't hear anything about the opt-out. You know, it's one of those things of they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if they took on dispatch back for themselves, number one, they're gonna have to find the staffing, the equipment, the technology, and they're gonna be spending 3 times as much as what they pay us. And it doesn't make sense to institute more dispatch centers in this county. It would make more sense if we would consolidate all of the ones we currently have. That would solve a lot of your staffing issues. You know, Girard, Niles, and Lordstown would all fall under one, but you're never gonna get that because it's a political hot potato of everybody wants control and power. And if if Girard gives up their dispatch center, or Niles or Lordstown, they want control over how things are done at their agency. And if they become a COG, a council of governments with us, then, they're gonna lose that control, is how it's foreseen by everybody. That's why there's a big push against regionalization locally, where we've seen it work in other places. We just visited Summit County Dispatch last week. They have a brand new 30,000 square foot building. I think they've been in it for 3 or 4 years now. I think they paid over $17 million to renovate it. It's huge, way too big for what we would need, obviously, but they house the city of Akron Dispatch Center is here. They're in the same building. They share the same building, but over on this side is Summit County Dispatch, who dispatches for like 12, 13 agencies. So they kind of share the cost. That, could potentially be something to look at in the future if we can't get people to come on and say, do a regional dispatch center where you have Trumbull County oversee Niles, Girard, and Lordstown. Maybe we could co-locate, if you wanted to do a new building, but obviously that throws a whole wrench into things of what we currently got going. The only reason I suggest that is that would answer your staffing issues, because right there, you're gonna have, 3, 4, 5, 6 people from each agency that you could instantly take in that already dispatch. Kind of muddies the waters, but I mean, politically, nobody's gonna agree to that. I mean, we might end up taking on, Gerard PD. I know they mentioned that when we took on the fire department, that potentially they might come over eventually. But right now where we're at is, what condition our building's in, what the need is. And right now, we're able to meet our budget needs. Obviously, if we had 27, 28, 29, 30 dispatchers, our budget numbers would increase because you're gonna have wages, benefits, and all those things, as opposed to just paying the overtime that we're currently running right now.
Stacy.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
When we were talking about transportation, Diane texted me that she wanted to talk. It's up to you. I don't know if she still doesn't.
Diane,
From senior levy.
okay, we bring her in. Diane?
Star six.
Hello?
Her, she has.
So very good star six.
Star
Hello?
6?
There she is.
I'm on the computer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. A little bit additional information that Mike doesn't clarify. When we had one vendor in our system, we had a monopoly. That vendor had a monopoly. So they called the shots when it came to funding. Year after year, that vendor would ask us for additional funding or shut the system down because they didn't have enough funds to meet the ridership. We held them within the sustainable budget for a couple of years, and we noticed the cost was high and the ridership was low. Since senior levy took over the transportation, the rates have come down by half. Ridership has doubled, and it's all been positive. We also award to several vendors. We do the same thing within our senior levy programs. We award to several vendors so that the consumer has a choice. By having several vendors, you create competitive rates being bid. Currently, the vendors that submitted the proposals have been reviewed by the three of us, Mike, myself, and Ed Stark. Recommendations were made based on the ability of capacity and the cost of the trips that were proposed. Again, having multiple vendors allows us to have competitive rates. The ranking sheets were approved by ODOT, and Trumbull County was given the approval by ODOT to move forward based on those ranking sheets. The other non-recommended vendors either didn't have the ability to meet capacity because their fleet was small or their costs were double. Why would we award a contract that's double in price? We're awarding the contracts that were within the same unit price that we have right now, which allows our funding to, offer the expanded ridership. If we awarded to a contract that was double the price, we'd run out of money. We'd be coming back to you to continue the system with more money. That's my summary of why we made the recommendations we did. Any comments, questions?
Just one thing, and it keeps coming up because I've heard this since I started here. Under a different system we had before, it cost the taxpayers $400,000 out of senior levy money. And then I heard it's cost us as high as 1.1 million out of taxpayer money to provide the service out of taxpayer dollars. Is that true? Is that not true? Is that?
The vendor was receiving $450,000 plus all of the ODOT money, any of the grants that were awarded. That vendor was receiving close to $2 million and providing senior levy with our 16 to 20,000 trips per year.
But out of the taxpayer money that we bring in through the levy, it was just 400,000. Now what is the level now out of senior levy money that we just did the replacement on?
750,000 is our sustainable budget.
So it did go up. So there is truth to that part of it.
The ridership has doubled.
Everything else
So when you
different.
look at the unit price, their unit price used to be $40 a trip. Our unit price is $23.
Okay.
the cost is going to go up if you have more trips. We're meeting the demand to the public. Complaints are down. Ridership is being given.
I'll your question.
Yep.
Anything else, Dan?
I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, That concludes our workshop. Who's here today? Anybody here for any? Okay, if you'd stand, just give your name and.
From here, there, anywhere?
Anyway,
Good, all right. My name is Chad Root. I am the Capital Programs Administrator at the Ohio Department of Transportation District 4. And the reason I'm here today is to talk about our construction project, or rather projects at the intersection of 46 and Market, 46 and Market, 82 and Holland Wilson, 46 and Howland Springs Road, a signal there, and then a sidewalk along 46. So we have a construction project we've been working on. And to give you a little history of the project, we did a study back in 2018, and it was a safety and congestion study that looked at 46 and 82. And out of that study, the most dangerous intersection was at 82 and Howland Wilson, multiple fatalities at that intersection. So the recommendation was with this project was to cul-de-sac those roads and allow right-ins. By doing that, you shift traffic. So the traffic gets shifted to 46 and Market, and then the intersection of 86, or 82 and 46, which we're out there right now building the diversion diamond intersection. The project to the north is 46 and Market, and that needs capacity improvements. So widening the intersection, lengthening the turn lane at that intersection, and then all the traffic can move smoothly. So did that study, currently building the DDI right now. If you recall, we came a few years ago on the DDI, and what we had there was there's a water line inside our right of way, and the water line is there via a permit. And how we view a permit is there's no money interest in a permit. So we just give you a permit. Hey, you're allowed to be there. Our permits are all revocable. You're there at our will, and we allow you to be there. But in the event that a utility needs moved, it becomes the utility owner's responsibility. So whether that's a water line, whether that's a gas line, an electric line, whether that's the wood poles, those get moved at the utility's expense when they're in our right of way, unless there's a property interest there, meaning they're in an easement. If they're in an easement, that's a property interest there. So we had this in the DDI. We had multiple conversations with the commissioners at the time. And in the end, the commissioners did agree to pay $600 and some thousand on a 3-year payment plan to have that water line with the project. So fast forward to today, and at the intersection to the north at 46 and Market, we have a water line in the right of way as well. And we coordinated pretty close with Mr. Newborough's office on what needs to happen with that water line. And the basic thing is there's 10 state standards that says you have to have a certain amount of separation between a water line and a sewer line. And because of the project and the widening of the road and the location of the sewer, they're now too close. So the water line has to be moved with the project. So we've been doing a lot of coordination. We have had to pause our project. In order for us to move forward with our project, we basically have to get legislation from yourselves and the amount deposited in order to move forward with the project, which is around $439,000. I understand that is a good chunk of money to come up with. And that's why I'm here today, just to tell you that I've been trying to work really closely with our central office. I've looked at the project at the DDI, and what we found there is we had to do some redesign of the sewer on that project. And because of the redesign of the sewer, a certain amount of water line did not need to be installed. So over 700 foot of water line did not need to be installed on that project. So for me, I'm turning the gears. I think that's a great idea because I can take the savings from the DDI and apply it to here. So there's 700 foot of pipe that's already been purchased that we can take and say, give it to the next contractor to build. And of that section of 46, it's around 800 foot of pipe. So they would just need to buy another 100 foot. Without building that, there's a savings to the project as well. And I haven't got final numbers. I've only got numbers from our staff, but I have to go through our central office. We're probably looking at savings near $200,000. So that 439, if we apply that, take that savings and apply it to the project to the north, the amount now, we could be more in the 239, 200 range. And I've also got permission from our central office to, just like that project, we don't normally do this. but we normally require all the money up front, and I was able to get them to do a payment plan again. So I just wanted to come here today and give you that information. Right now, our January 31st was our deadline, so that project was being advertised. It was on the street. We have pulled that until we can get some level of commitment, just some.
So over time, you found you moved it from 439 to we owe 200,000.
I don't know the exact number yet, 700 foot of pipe. I know how much we've spent on the DDI. It's in the 400,000 range. So there's a projected 200-some thousand savings there. They still have to add in incidentals and any of our inspection costs onto the numbers that our engineers come up with. So I don't know the exact number, but there will be some additional money there to shift.
So how much more time do you need to find another 700 foot of pipe?
Yeah, I won't be able to find that.
I mean, you look down there every rock, you
I've
look pretty
looked
good.
under, yeah, we only do water main when we're doing, we don't have water mains, right? So we don't do a lot of project with water main.
I had a question on it because, you know, we had our prosecutors, we look at this, I know Matt and I was looking at this, and there was some suggestion to the commissioners as to what we're reliable for or what we should or should not do. So
Yeah,
I'm questioning, you know, just the way that it was handled.
Mhm.
I don't know, Bill, do you know any? You're working with Matt on this?
Yeah, Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineer. What was the total cost of that DDI project? How many million?
The total project cost, it was in the $15 million range, $14 million range.
50 million?
15.
25.
15. So you had to do the
All right,
bridge
well,
above.
what happened on the DDI was that we had a permit from ODOT to have our line out there in the state Route 46 right away. When we took out that permit in 93, there was no language in there that said that we were liable for any relocation costs of that water line.
Mhm.
When it came down to push and shove and everything else, we were pretty much coerced into saying if you don't pay this $700-some thousand for this water line relocation, even though we didn't think we were liable for it, that you weren't going to build the project and the county was going to lose out on this $15 million improvement. So that is the only reason that I saw that the county went ahead with going ahead and agreeing to pay the $700-some thousand from the water funds for a $15 million improvement in the county.
Mhm.
We are in the same situation here in Howland Corners where our permit from 93 doesn't have any language in there that says we're liable for that relocation. And on advice of legal counsel, that is the stance that we have, that we are not liable for the cost of water line relocation in the Howland Corners area.
Yeah, so the permit you referenced, that was our permits from 1993. And if you
Yes.
do get a permit today, it specifically references that the local or the utility would be responsible. But it wasn't that they weren't responsible back in 93. It's just that that specific language wasn't on there. We put that on there because we were getting pushback from other locals and other utilities on whether or not they were. So we said, well, to simplify this, we're going to put it. But a permit is always just that. It's not a property right. It's not paid for. We were not paid in any way, shape, or form for that. It's just, hey, you have permission to be here. That's a permit in general. And I'm not a lawyer. To be fair, I'm not a lawyer. I've just gotten our lawyer's opinion on the difference between a property right, having something in warranty deed or easement, as opposed to a permit, just not considered a property right from our standpoint. And I will say we are very consistent with this all across the state, with every single utility.
All right, well, if you can convince our prosecutor's office that we owe this $400-some thousand, I guess we will have no choice on this, but that's the person you need to.
Bill, was there any case law that would have made them add that in their language, or maybe they lost a case somewhere and some community didn't have to pay it, so they had language on
Well,
there?
from what I've been told, this predates Bill Danso, prosecutor's office. This predates my time here. Jim Brutz was our office's sanitary representative years ago. My understanding is there is a project that we in Trumbull County did not pay for many years ago, and that's why Mr. Brutz became adamant that we didn't need to pay these, that these were, in fact, I believe the statute has been amended since 93, but to include some of the language. And again, I will say Matt Blair from the sanitary office has been driving a lot of this recently. He's done some research that he believes he found some legal authority to be helpful. But what I will say, just from my perspective of dealing with the diverging diamond is, you know, again, I think this is where the argument comes down. ODOT's view on this is that without an official recorded document, like an easement, like a deed, this is simply a permission slip that they can revoke at any time. That's not the way that these have been treated in the past by Trumbull County. And I appreciate any help that they can give financially, but I have to be honest, something that concerns me a little bit is that the first bill came in for 700,000 for the diverging diamond and ended up being, okay, we'll do it for 400, and now we get a bill for 400,000, and now it's, well, I think we can do it for 200. And I understand that it's because maybe some leftover pipes here or there, but I guess my question, and it's maybe not a legal question, is what happens if we would have paid 700 the first time? What happens if we would have just cut a check for 400 this time? You know, I'm a little concerned is, you know, part of the prosecutor's duties is to prevent the misapplication of public funds. And I want to be sure from that perspective that the commissioners are getting those answers to make them feel comfortable. I think Mr. Newbrow, right? Ultimately, with the diverging diamond, the commissioners at the time felt like there was too much of a risk of stopping this big project, and I believe some ARPA funds may have been designated for that at the time.
Yes, Gary Newbrow Sanitary, and we requested, I think, 170,000 or so of the ARPA funds to help pay for that water line relocation to Holland, and then we got on a payment plan for some other funds, and there was some talk of getting some CMAQ funds to help pay for it, but that sort of fell by the wayside, it fell off the conversation there. Mr. Kinnick may be able to address that if we able to use any CMAQ funds for it. But I requested those, asked how we could apply for those, and I pretty much just never heard back regarding that. So
all that to say, on my perspective from the prosecutor's office is I think there appears to be a legal question here that I don't have a lot of legal authority to tell the board exactly how it would come out. The question is, you know, is that something that the board wants to pursue further, or does the board want to work with ODOT to find a way to make this more palatable to everyone? That's really kind of a board decision. It's the decision the board kind of arrived at back with the diverging diamond after discussing with everybody. And I think that would probably be, you know, a fruitful thing for the board to do here as well, at least talk through it and see what options they can come up with.
Well, there's a whole nother aspect to this. What if we don't have the money? Because we don't. I mean, what do you do in those cases?
Well, I understand. That's why I wanted to work on this and figure out a way to do a payment plan, to be honest with you.
At the moment, we can't even make payments, so I'll let you know that.
Well, and I'm questioning the fact that our legal well, at least sanitary, we've been cautioned to even agree to pay this.
Well, we were told not to when it was at 7, then it went to 4, we were told not to, now we're at 2. That's why it said in jest.
Well,
There's more time to
it was on the diverting
But
diamond.
it's still
It's
200.
corners of it.
The DVI.
But we're still with money on the pocket. Are we really liable? I mean, I don't know.
Just the initial money was the DDI, the 600, I think it was 650 some thousand. I don't think it was
700 some thousand, and now, you know, with the adjustment of quantities, that sort of thing, it's
dropped down because
it's probably
the sewer
$2.5 million mark right now, from what I can.
Right, so the sewer moved. To answer your kind of question on what happens with the money. So every project we do with the local, we get all the money up front. That's standard operating procedure. And then what happens is at the end of a project, when we close it out, we either cut you a check for the balance of the money, or we actually, in some cases, we have to request more money if we go over on that amount. That's kind of how that normally happens. Just
That's good to know for
Yeah.
the commissioners.
And actually, when we do this, we give an initial number. That's what's called we estimate each job, and they give a number. And then that's a number. And then we send legislation based on that. Once the project is actually bid, we then say, here's the actual amount. So once again, it could be above that number, or it could be below that number based on the actual bid prices. Is how we base it.
Jim Kinnick, Executive Director at Eastgate. I just want to offer an independent opinion, 30 years at ODOT, 5 years as a real estate administrator. Lived this life in my past life. I've yet to see anytime there was a permit that it wasn't asked on whoever was put in there, not to have to pay to relocate it. No disrespect to Attorney Blair's opinion. I've never seen anybody that had a permit not have to pay when it had to be moved. I will say, Gary, CMAQ was looked at. I don't believe they determined it was eligible at the time. We'll gladly look again to see if there's something we can do to help from a CMAQ standpoint. I will tell you that Eastgate alone has $4 million of our own money in this project. We want to keep it going, as you guys do. Tough situation we're all in now. I applaud ODOT for trying to find out and try to save money. There's nobody hiding anything, and I think Chad did a great job saying at the end of it, it gets finalized and the check gets cut or another check comes in. Every penny's accounted for. But I would encourage, we can, as Eastgate, gladly take a look and see if we can try to find something. There's no promises there at all, but we want to work with you to try to help and keep it going. Important project. You don't want to delay this project, so we have to figure it out. And again, I thank them for coming out here to explain what's going on without giving a check and shutting the project down for good. So past experience as real estate administrator, working with Attorney General's office many times, I've yet to see somebody win that argument that they got a permit and it didn't say that they had to be reimbursed or they had to reimburse the state. So just an independent opinion, trying to help the commissioners focus on where they have to go from here.
And one thing to point out on the project, so you have the 46 right away, and then you have the market right away. All the water line and market, ODOT's paying for that. 100%. It is a Trumbull County sanitary sewer and Trumbull County right away. We're paying for all that. We bought standard highway easement to widen the road. We're paying for all that. And then with the intersection itself, it was really fortunate to get funded by safety and CMAQ. And I don't believe we have any Trumbull County engineer, no local money in the job. So when I tell you, we try to work, I'm not trying to pull one over on anyone. This is very standard operating. And like I said, I'll work with anyone and try to figure out a way to get our project built. I do think it's overall, the total commitment here is like $7.2 million between the 4 projects that I referenced. So.
Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineer. When we've extended quite a few water and sewer projects throughout the county. And when I run into another person's utility, it's incumbent upon the county to pay for that relocation. Storm sewer, if it's somebody else's water line, if it's fiber optic, anything like that. I mean, that is our responsibility. Even when it comes to the telephone, we're responsible for the cost. We're going to interfere with telephone poles, overhead electric lines. And you just said that ODOT, if it's in the county right away, you go ahead. If you got to do a water line relocation work, that you pay for that. I just can't see how you can come up with an improvement and not pay for the entire thing. And that includes the relocation of this water line inside of the state right away. I mean, we have to do it on all of our projects. Why wouldn't ODOT have to do it here? And you're saying it's in the language of the permit that we agreed to that, but it wasn't in that language of the permit back in '93.
We would never take on that financial liability of moving all of the utility that we've allowed to be in our right of way.
Free of charge.
Free of charge. I don't know why we would take on that responsibility to move someone else's. If they got an easement, we'll pay for it. You have a property interest, but with no property interest, why would it be in our best interest to pay for that?
Gary, you have to be referencing these things in an easement.
I guarantee if the sewer, if Gary goes through and he widens the road, he's not paying for that utility, that pole. Honestly, I don't know why you would be, I'm being honest.
When we go down a township road with the sewer, if there's a storm line in there that has to be removed in order to put our line underneath it, we replace that storm sewer pipe. I couldn't imagine going into the townships and asking them to pay for that.
Isn't it your sewer though? You're the Trumbull County sewer?
But if there's a storm sewer inside of a township right away, we don't charge the township for that.
But you own the sewer.
We don't own that storm sewer, or the sanitary sewer I'm putting in, yes. If I have to remove that storm sewer and put in a sanitary sewer, yes, we own the sanitary sewer after we put it in, but we're responsible to pay the replacement of that storm sewer. Or the relocation of the storm sewer. I just can't understand this hierarchy that you have here. saying that somehow we have to pay the ODOT.
Yeah.
For county water lines and you're right away.
And not to be argumentative, but in this scenario of a township road, is it the township sewer?
There's the township storm
So it's
sewer.
their road, their storm sewer, and your water lines forced it to move. I would expect you to pay for that. You're moving their line.
Right, and you're moving my line.
You're in our right of way. In your scenario, you're in
And
the
I'm in
township
there.
road.
And I'm in there right away.
It's township road and their sewer. So I would expect you to have to pay to move their line.
Okay, I see your logic there. What about on the county highways then?
Right, I'm paying, once again, I'm paying for it on the county road. I'm paying for it. It's in your county. It's your sewer. I'm paying to move it.
Okay, well, we move them in the county right of ways also.
I would love to set up a meeting with anyone and have further discussions. Totally willing to do that.
Are you saying you're forbid for paying for the removal? For moving the line?
The state to pay for that line.
I mean,
Yeah, you can't do that.
it's unlawful for you to move that,
to pay for.
to pay for it.
Yeah, I don't know of any scenario. I know in ODOT District 4, which I've been.
Well, I mean, is it a law or is it just past practice?
I believe it's in the revised code, but once again, I'm not.
Okay,
aware.
yeah, okay, that's my
Yeah.
question,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, just for further discussion. Appreciate it.
And,
Thank you.
and when do you need an answer?
Well, like I said, we
Yesterday?
have delayed our project. I don't want to give a hard deadline because I don't think I need to do that. I think it's worthy of a conversation and worthy of trying to figure out a way through this. The way we have our project set up, I think we do have a little bit of float just based on the DDI and when it's being built and the closing of things. So I think we do have a little bit of float here to work on something.
Oh, is this part of the DDI or is this separate?
Separate contract. It'll be a whole different contract than what the DDI is.
So why do we even have to do that contract? Is that something ODOT's making us do or something was already approved? Do we have to do that,
The next piece of legislation.
the DDI?
Yeah, so since it's a whole new project, it's a whole new letting, it's a whole new piece of legislation for that. The DDI just covered 46 and 82, the work in that window.
So that'll go on regardless.
That'll keep going. That's keeping going. We're gonna wrap up by November this
If we
year.
don't do the project, the other one, or is there a way to opt out of that project?
Opt out of the project to the
Yeah.
north. Opt out. If you want to go down that direction, we would have to have some conversations at ODOT and just determine what we would then want to do. Because like I said, there's a sidewalk that's being built from the intersection all the way to the DDI for Holland Township. There is a signal at Howland Springs and 46, so south of the DDI, and then you have 82 and Howland Wilson, which we're going to cul-de-sac that. And to be honest, that was the driver. That and the congestion at 46 and 82 were the driver on this project.
Safety study included all three of the projects, all three locations.
We just couldn't build it all at once because then it was a over $20 million project and we didn't have the funding lined up to do that. And you had to build it in a certain order. You had to get the DDI done first.
It's just a question. So does the township have any money in this, or is this something that the county is doing on a state road for the township?
The township, they have money on the sidewalk portion of the job. So we agreed to parts. Eastgate gave, I don't have the exact numbers. Eastgate gave 80%, and then we agreed to give 10% up to a certain amount for the sidewalk, and Howland Township, I believe, that's the other 10% on the sidewalk portion. But other than that, they don't have any other money in this because we maintain all state routes in townships. That's our road. So they don't have anything there.
Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineer, what's your estimated total project cost of the Howland Corners improvement?
So just, my apologies, Howland Corners is
46.
46 on Market Street.
46 in Market.
Yeah.
So the total between all of them is 7.2. I don't know that off the top of my head what that individual number is just for the intersection. I just know the total of the
Is
four.
5 million a good estimate? 4 million, 3 million?
I just hate to say it. If I got my laptop, I could.
All right, well,
Look
what
at
it comes
something.
down to, Commissioner, that they will do this millions of dollars of improvement for us there at the intersection. And our cost is 400 some thousand of water.
200
Well, it's coming, well, the last agreement I saw was 400.
439 is the number we had sent, and then that's when I started working with Kurt on, hey, when he told me we have 700 foot of pipe that was not constructed. So then I asked him to look at what have we billed to date, knowing what you billed total, and give me a difference there on
Right,
money
I
that can be
understand
applied.
Quantities,
Yeah,
that sort of
yeah.
thing, yes, but we're looking at somewhere in the $250,000 range now.
Yeah, I think so.
For us to get a $4 or $5 million improvement out there now. So that's what I'm saying.
I think that's fair.
All right, when the attorneys, research this and tell us, yes, you have to pay it.
Mhm.
And then,
I guess that's what we're at the mercy of that, they get their opinion on.
right,
Okay. Well,
So
thank
what's
you.
the follow-up conversation? What do we, Jerry Norrell, District 4 Deputy Director, so what do we need to do next from a department? Who do we need to engage with?
Mr. Danzo. That's the man.
He keeps shaking his head.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the case. I think ultimately, and again, I can coordinate with the commissioners, independently after the meeting. I think probably maybe Gary would be the appropriate point of contact. We'll continue working with them, but our office, we provide advice. We don't provide the decision. So we're gonna have to work with our clients and help them arrive at what they're comfortable with, and we're certainly will do that with them.
Okay.
And we, just to clear up, previous boards of commissioners agreed to this project? Or is this something we're being drug into and have to pay the bill for? Or did we agree to this Allen Commons project? Do you know?
I guess I don't know. I know that they passed the participatory legislation in the past for the diverging diamond. I don't know that there was any official commissioners action on these other sections.
no, there have not been, I brought it to the commissioners and we had it on the agenda and my thought process was, well, we had to pay on the Burning Diamond, we're probably gonna have to pay on this too, and when it was on the agenda, you made the comments, Bill, that, hey, you need to review this again, let's take another look at it, because that 93 permit does not have that language in it, so I was happy to say, yes, let's hold off on doing this, and let's make sure we have to pay. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Okay. Next.
My name is Sherry Malaterno. I'm a resident of, and I'm here again about the dam removal in Leavittsburg. First, I wanted to ask commissioners questions. The Warren Township trustees have filed a appeal motion with the EPA. Do you guys, are you free to state whether you were for or against removal? I know
We haven't met on that yet, and we gotta talk, we have an attorney that we hired to handle that for us. We gotta consult with them and that.
have you spoken to the Warren Township's attorneys?
We have not.
Okay.
Our attorney has. I saw an email correspondence where
Okay.
our attorneys and
Then have you read,
communication with
have
their
you read
attorney
the appeal?
have not.
Okay, as I read through the appeal, I am under the assumption that you've all agreed it should stay. Because it says that they're finding it because they have ignored significant community opposition, including the opposition of both the Warren Township trustees and the Trumbull County commissioners. So either I believe that you guys are being honest about what you said, but then I think there's some bad attorneys going around saying that you guys are saying that they cannot.
Speak.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bernard and I, we have, that we don't, I personally have not had any
Oh, no, that's
contact
fine.
and I don't know what,
No, that's fine.
I understand what you're saying, but for them to speak for the new
Yes.
commissioners
Yes,
is
that's why I was
Not-
asking you.
within their jurisdiction to do,
That's-
correct?
Right.
Now, I'm not gonna say that we're, and I'm not gonna put anything out there right now as to either way, but for them to say that we are in opposition, it's correct to say that because we weren't even here to
I
do this,
understand.
to oppose. Now, I don't know Commissioner Malloy.
No, we never said, a vote either way of what we are, but we did have an agreement with the park board to facilitate a meeting with EPA to get the facts on the table. We did agree to pay for an independent study, which we did. We presented the study, and then they wanted the park board had asked for more background and a definitive answer from EPA and what the options are. We brokered that meeting, and then the park board decided not to attend the meeting or not to be a part of the meeting. So we did agree as a group and as commissioners with the trustees, with the board, to have a meeting with the EPA to see the facts. And once we brokered the meeting and got the date set up, they bailed on it and decided they were gonna get an attorney and not deal with it anymore. So that's where we're left. with
No,
it now.
and I wasn't concerned about that, and I'm not upset with you guys at all. I just found it very odd that an attorney would put in writing that the commissioners had said that when I thought you had not come out and said it, and that's fine. That is really not the issue
Right.
why I'm here at all. I just wanted you to be aware of the fact that there are attorneys out there speaking for you.
Well, and I'm gonna.
Now, is that what was filed or is that what was proposed that they're presenting to
This is
us?
filed. This is filed.
Well, when I'm going to, I'm proposing a meeting with our attorney because, we need to know, exactly where we're gonna go with this. And the township has an attorney and,
We have an email from our attorney yesterday asking us that same thing, Commissioner, that to meet with us to go over what our stance is. We have not done that yet, but we did get a request from our attorney to do exactly that.
And again, I'm not saying anything to criticize you guys at all whatsoever. Everybody is allowed to have their opinion, and that's fine. I just was surprised when I saw that because I hadn't heard anything come out publicly. And if someone had done that to me and I had not been spoken to, I'd be very upset. I just wanted you to be aware of what was
Well, no, I
going on.
understand, and I'm wondering if they're talking about maybe two of the past. Was this prior to January?
No, this
Where-
just, this,
This
they
is just recent?
this is just recent that they got the attorney and that they
Okay,
filed it.
well,
So anyways, that's not the big thing that I wanted to kind of go over a couple of the things that are in it. Again, I think most of this, the information that they have gotten has been from the DLZ report, which I spoke to you about the last time that I was here, which I think has some bulky information. So it has assignments of theirs and they go through about 6 of them. And I'll try to keep this short because to me, the numbers and that just don't work. In the first assignment of air, they talk about this sanitary discharge to the river from an estimated 600 to 800 residents. The Meadowbrook project says that it is going to service 111 houses. I'm sorry, I think Smith's makes my mouth dry. I think my husband told my doctor to give it to me, so I couldn't take it. But so my mouth gets real dry when I talk. Anyways, EPA estimates 2.8 people per household. So if you take 111 and we'll round it up to 3, that's 333 people. And they're saying they're gonna make it sound like it's really bad, much worse than what it is. It's bad what's going on. They got 600 to 800 people. Numbers don't jive.
But the entire service area is over 700 houses.
Well,
When you got, yeah.
There's 3 phases
Yeah,
of this. Meadowbrook is just phase 1.
Okay.
Actually, it's gonna be 4 phases, so we're looking at over 700.
okay, well, then that makes sense. That makes sense. Part of the issue is, and I don't understand this yet. The people that live along there in those areas have septic lines that go and empty into the river. I understand them getting a permit to do that. What I don't understand is why for years they have been allowed to have non-functioning septic systems dump into the river. Is that
You
legal?
want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Well, going back to, I don't know, that's one of the first settlements in the entire county. Once they did bring it into our plumbing and have to get rid of that,
It's Gary Newbar speaking.
Gary Newbrow sanitary engineer. And after they did have to have, sewage removal from a household, they went in and they put in septic tanks, just like they have throughout this entire county. Septic tanks, basically are gonna catch the solids and let the liquids. some digestion is gonna happen in that septic tank. There's always gonna be a liquid effluent going out of it. And back in, I'd say all the way up to about 1999, those septic tanks, they were approved by the Board of Health, by state standards, they were perfectly legal to do that, and that black water that comes off of those, septic tanks, that effluent, it gets diverted into the stormways and the
Understand
drainage ways, so it was all put in that way.
I understand
Now,
that.
when the
It's sad.
EPA came in and said, we're Trumbull County, we need you to provide sewers here, they put us into what was called a consent decree for us to go replace all those septic systems. If we didn't agree to that consent decree and put in the sanitary sewer, then everyone out there would have had to upgrade those septic tanks, with the $15,000 to $20,000 upgrades.
Which I've had to do. I don't
Okay.
live on the river,
Okay.
but the Meadowbrook project doesn't say that they're doing that to eliminate the drainage. It says they're doing it because of the elimination of failed septic systems. So they have septic systems that they have failed and have never been upgraded.
All right.
Nobody else in Trumbull County is allowed to do that.
Yes, we have in every one of the consent decree areas or where sewers are imminent.
Then why did I pay for an upgrade?
Well, where are you located?
Graceville Township.
Yeah, you are too far away from the central collection system. There was no project on the books to be able to get you that way.
But before the project, these have been failed before the project.
Yeah,
These have been failed for years
back
and
in
years and
'98,
years.
the EPA, that's when they really came in and did a lot of sampling throughout the county, especially in the high density housing areas. 700 housing back in that little area, the Scott Street area, in the Heights area, the Hilltop area, McDonald. That's where they concentrated. They came in and said, these high density housing areas that are on septic tanks, Trumbull County, you're gonna have to clean this up. And that's when they did this with the consent decree. We've been working on that ever since.
Okay.
And Meadowbrook is one of the last projects that we're gonna be starting.
Okay. Well, part of the complaint from there's a small group, I feel, of people that live around the dam itself that are louder than everyone else. I've had many people say to my husband and I, thank you for going and speaking for Graceville. But nobody wants to speak for Graceville or the other areas. So since I got pulled in this, I'm kind of stuck doing this. But one of the things that was said, and I'm not bashing anybody if I say names, please me not. You did an interview for Ideas Stream in 2022. And you said that you had been in touch with the Metro Parks to try to keep the schedule of Metro Park of the septic systems, the waste treatment plant and the dam as close as possible. And you said, but I can't guarantee that we're going to have it in by the exact date. There are just too many variables right now. And then you continued to say, we could put extensions on the pipe so they won't be seen. So to me, if you could do that in 2022, you can still do that now, which takes the issue of the septic systems going into the river out of play.
Yes, Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineer. I have always said that. Everybody, there was an article in the paper attributing me to saying that there's some problem with, these effluent pipes not being submerged and leaving waste on dry land. And from the get-go, after we talked to Ohio EPA about this, they told us if that is the case, just put a firm coat of pipe on it and send it out into the water. I've had that same opinion from the beginning.
I like that opinion.
Yes.
Because part of the argument
Every
about,
article in the paper is that it said the opposite of me when
No.
I don't know where that was coming from.
part of the argument about keeping the dam is because of the pipes draining into the river.
Right, and
But if you're gonna put the
I've always
extensions
been
on,
consistent and said that is not an issue. If that were an issue.
Thank you.
We have to extend the pipes out a little bit and it'll.
thank
But
you.
they would be visible now. You would see the pipes going into the river. All the canoes would see up to 700 sewer pipes
It
going
wouldn't be
into the
the
river.
same, but as
It's
far as
temporary.
eliminating any septic effluent on dry land, we can eliminate that pretty easily with and that's just a suggestion of the EPA.
At whose cost?
I don't think it would be. Yeah, I guess somebody got to pay for it, for an extension of a pipe,
I don't
maybe.
think so.
maybe $100 for every pipe that might be out there. We don't know.
I don't mean to rush you, but
Yeah.
we have others that want to speak.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know, there's a lot of things.
Let me ask, why haven't your trustees got engaged? You're speaking on
I
behalf
have
of
no
the
idea why my
citizen?
trustees haven't got engaged. I have spoken to them several times and they seem to be non-active. I don't have a good reason why they haven't gotten engaged. It is not because they want the dam there, because they have told me they want it to go. They understand it, and yes, they want it to
They
go.
have not said that publicly to anybody.
No, they have not. They have not at all. And I wish they would. Well, I gave you the things. Most of the things that are on it are things that I spoke to you about when I went over the DLZ report. To me, it's almost a basic outline of the DLZ report, just stated a little bit differently. The objections are the same. The reasoning is still faulty. I think it's catering to a few group of people that live around the area that are trying to keep that a private little lake because they want to do pontooning, but it's an Ohio waterway. That should be open to everybody, should be accessible. It's a safety hazard. It's obviously a health hazard right now until the sewage plant can go in. And I just, I think it needs to be considered all the other sides instead of just what the people that live right around there. Quoting one that said they feel like they're at Disneyland. I don't think so.
Mr. Walter, we appreciate your concern and we're definitely keeping an eye on this. But keep in mind what you had brought and what they had said, that's not the view.
Now, I'm not worried about whether it's your view. Really, I only brought it to your attention because I was just really kind of surprised that I would have thought you would have made a public statement of some sort before an attorney would have basically indirectly quoted you. And so that's what you felt.
I would agree with that.
And I would be angry if somebody did that to me.
Yes.
But I hope you'll look at all the sides of it and take it into consideration.
Commissioner?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I have two major concerns ever since I've heard about the dam. Number one is no one knows what's gonna happen if the dam comes out. Okay? You know, no one knows what we're gonna find. And the other one is who's gonna take responsibility? I think that's something that the board has to look at. If something happens there, you know, who's gonna take responsibility on the dam? I think that's what the previous board, don't quote me, but I think that was one of their concerns, that if something would happen there, we know the township, they don't want the responsibility. County commissioners, we don't want the responsibility. But if something happens, you know, where are we at? And I think.
We know our decision maker, the park board, doesn't have the money to assume any responsibility.
Right,
Should that
and
happen.
we've asked them, you know, for a meeting and they came back to the board and said, don't talk to us, talk with our
Well,
attorney.
they were being sued. They were being threatened of being sued. It's hard
Well,
to talk to
not by
somebody.
us, you know, I mean, you know,
They were being threatened by officials.
I mean,
At the Metro Park meetings, they would be threatened to be sued all the time. So it's very difficult.
well, not by this.
Not by the commissioners. They were threatened that they needed to have the meeting and follow through with their guidelines for their funding, not by being sued.
I mean, it's a major problem, but we could have a catastrophe there if something happens, you know, to that roadway or that bridge, and then where are we at? I mean, that's why we need to look at everything. It's not just a simple take it out or leave it in. If there could be some potential
And
problems.
I guess based on the previous board, we had contentions from the highway engineer, our sanitary engineer, the health commissioner said, don't do it at this time. Gary said, don't do it at this time also. We didn't say don't do it, but wait until the sewer lines or delay the project. So there are some words with that.
No.
The trustees did a resolution asking us not to do it. We got a petition signed by 800 residents.
Commissioner, I want to stop real quick because I don't want there to be any, he said, she said, but
There were comments
What was
made.
your comment?
That was ahead of the project. That was ahead. It was getting the cart before the horse. I remember in one of the meetings we had.
Commissioner, I have no recollection of ever saying that that's gonna have any impact on the sewer project. I said, I have my focus, getting sewers in, the dam gets
But you gave
removed
it
before or
you
after.
laid out
it
in a
makes
public
it
meeting,
makes
we had
no
the
difference to
timeframe.
me.
You laid out the time frame. The time frame between when the sewer lines would be in and when this project would be done, that was before the sewer lines were gonna get in. You clearly spelled out the time frame in a public meeting that we had.
Okay, of when I thought the sewer was gonna be put in.
Correct.
Okay,
And the ramifications that for the time frame that you would not have the sewers in before the project was completed.
right, right.
Well,
You
my
agree with
basic
that?
question is, Commissioner Malloy, you tried to set up a meeting with the Ohio EPA,
Right.
The township and the park board.
Right.
And did somebody?
We had a meeting and they said they didn't want to hear what we had to say in regards to what happened if they changed course. They wanted to hear it from the EPA directly. That was from Mr. Sauer said that at a public meeting. And he had agreement from Mr. Moss next to him that if we set the meeting up by the 15th of January, they would attend the meeting, hear what had to be said by the EPA. That would affect their votes, their two personal votes, and then they would ask for, they would relay that back to the board. We set the meeting up. It got to the president of the board, and the board president called Columbus, said we're not meeting with them, and then we got the deal with our attorney from here on in stuff. So they did not accept the meeting that the EPA deputy director had scheduled.
I would recommend that you guys talk directly to the Metro Parks Board.
They won't talk to us. They say talk to their attorney,
That's where we're at.
right?
Yeah, they have legal counsel.
And originally, did they say that the Metro Parks didn't want to reverse their decision because they'd have to pay back that money?
Right, and then when we said there are options to not pay back the
They didn't
money,
want to hear it.
they didn't want to hear it from us. They said
They
they needed to
didn't
hear
have
it
the
from the EPA.
options when they said that. You didn't have any options.
Yeah, they have them.
We didn't know what the options
Yeah.
were, because when they never asked, they never got a call back from the EPA.
And all I'm saying is, Commissioner Malloy went to the,
I went to the governor's office, and the governor's
he set up
office.
a meeting, and then no one from that side wanted to attend. I mean, we all need the answers.
Yeah, I think there's some half truths in that story, and that'll have to
Well,
be
I think
sorted
the
out.
meeting is still on if they'll contact me.
It is.
All they have to do is say yes. I mean, at the last meeting I was at, they took a hard no.
They were offered, we had the virtual meeting set up with the deputy director of EPA. And they had asked us to get the contact information or representative from each entity. We got one from Warren Township. We got one from ours. We notified our attorney. We notified Mr. Sauer and Mr. Moss. Mr. Fabricio put the axe to it and said, no, we're not attending that meeting. We're not being a part of that meeting. Deal with our lawyer. That's what
So
we're.
our attorney, we're gonna talk with our attorney. on this.
Let's, let's move on and.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Small Turno, thank you.
say what my concern.
Well, we have a long meeting here. These are gonna get very long. Ma'am, you're here on a vacation or the water?
The water,
Yeah.
yourself favor. And we went and got the petitions signed, and it sent to the Board of Commissioners to bring it in.
Right.
So,
Okay.
it's the road of Wilson and the dead end section of Aspenwall. We didn't know there's another road that I guess has well water. But we couldn't get anybody to answer. Do we need them? They're not between the
No,
fire
you need
hydrants.
to go from where the source of the water is to where you want it extended to.
Oh, well, there's 8 of us. We got every signature.
All right. Okay,
And I have a map of where the water is versus where we are.
good.
So there's a fire hydrant there, there's a fire hydrant there, there's a fire hydrant there, and we have every single house in red.
So this is it right here.
Yeah, these guys, I guess, have well, but we couldn't get any answers, but that would be something for them to
Looks to me
play.
like this would be.
Exactly, because you got a fire hydrant there and a fire hydrant there.
All right, just so you can see, Commissioner, so this is the area we're looking at down here. It's in Howland Township in that, where we have Elm Road here, North River Road here, North River here, Elm Road here. You can see that there's this little island without public water service. So she did a good job here. And she
I have maps
answered
for
these
everybody.
people, just looking at it, first look.
Is that back beyond the church? Is that the road that leads to the church? I believe it.
This is North River here. This is Elm Road.
Right.
So we got the sheet station. It's back behind that. So it's this pocket in here, and she has the signatures on her petition, all the property owners there. I can look at this and see if I can get a project.
Michelle Faber again, every single property between the fire hydrants and that dead end road has signed and they want water. And they're willing to pay.
All right, and it's just the properties on this list. No,
Yes, yes, sir.
all
And
right.
I do have copies of the petition and the map, if you guys would like. Okay, the map?
Well, I will formally turn this in, a resolution for the agenda for the commissioners to receive.
Yeah, because like I said, it is a very small island. I mean, I thought there was like 15, 20 to 30, but there's actually only 8 houses
All right,
between the fire hydrants.
okay.
And there's another 8 down those side roads.
I need to get with
That's
the
not-
city of Warren, see where their water lines actually end in here and try to divide the plan to get water service.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have her phone number?
Yes, Commissioner, I have her contact.
Yes, we've talked.
Yeah, we talked last week and we were able to get.
That was great work in a week. We need to hire. her.
Yesterday.
Are you looking for a job? 'Cause- Or is that on that? I don't know where we're going with it.
Actually, I did the map yesterday.
Great job. Great job.
Okay, who do we have here next? Yeah, Mr. Alvarini.
Hey, Mr. Mark Alberini, from the chairman of the Board of Elections with my director Stephanie.
Why don't you approach up, Mark, so they can hear you. Come on up to the table. Steph, you're welcome to.
Stand what?
You can sit here if you want to grab a seat at the table and discuss this. Be fine.
So I was asked if I'd be willing to come here and explain some questions around the recent restructuring of our deputy and deputy director's comp plan. So that's what I'm here. I'm willing to work with the commissioners on clarifying any questions or concerns that you have around that. It's been, I think misconstrued and miscommunicated that the Board of Elections gave our director and deputy directors raises. $8.66 raises, $18,000 a year raises. We did not do that. We absolutely did not do that. What we did is we restructured their compensation. They were hourly plus overtime and comp. Okay, they were hourly, they were getting their hourly rates, and they were eligible for overtime plus compensation or comp time. We restructured it to a higher hourly wage with 0 overtime, eliminating overtime so that we can reduce that, and we also cap their comp. So we're doing what we think is responsible in terms of alleviating peaks and valleys in off-year elections, even-year elections, presidential elections, special elections. We don't have any control over that. We budget fiscally for 2 elections a year. And that's how we establish our budget. I've been doing this at the Board of Elections for 12 years. Stephanie's been there for 20 plus years. We are spot on when it comes to forecasting our budgets. In the past 4 years, I've got a spreadsheet that I'll share with you, what we requested. In 2021, I'm not going to go through the numbers, but we were requested X amount of dollars. We were given 21% less, and we came in at 14% of what we requested. The subsequent year, we came in 5% of what we requested. 23, we came in at 1% of what we requested. 24, we came in at 1% of what we requested. We know what we need to run elections. We know what we need to fund the operations of an election. These are single digit and they're always under budget. And so now, the concern that we have, and I know it's a concern of the Board of Commissioners as well, is that, now we're looking, last year we requested 2.1 million. This year we're requesting, and I know it's, again, presidential election. We're requesting less than that this year, and obviously, for obvious reasons, it's not a presidential election. But we are requesting less, and now I think the commissioners are at a place where you're almost proposing a 28% less budget for us. Keep in mind, we come in at 1% the last couple of years of what we know we need. If you come in and you take our budget down 28% because for whatever reasons, I know you're trying to work within the budget, things like that, and I respect that. We're willing to do our fair share. We're gonna come back to you and you're gonna pay it anyway. I mean, you're obligated by law to pay for the Board of Elections and to fund elections. I mean, that's all there is to it. We are trying to make it predictable for y'all so that we don't have to come back with unknowns. We're taking the whole variable overtime component out of it so that it's more predictable and it removes the peaks and valleys. The other thing I would add, our overtime is way, way different than any other department's overtime. Our overtime, early voting hours, things like that are mandated by the Secretary of State. We don't control that. It's not like, okay, there's some snow, let's send some people out to do snow removal and that's overtime. When we open the doors, we have to have a Republican and a Democrat go there. Everything we do is in a bipartisan fashion. So that's out of our control. Well, let's just send 3 people in here. No, we've got to send 6. And so that's all I'm saying is, so at the end of the day, we also did, I think, responsible due diligence in terms of, we contacted other boards of elections. We contacted other counties of like electoral size to do a comparison. In 2023, was it 2023 when we did we redid all of our job description and pay scale structure. We did that with the assistance of, I think Diana Marquez was instrumental in that. The other board member, Ron Knight, was instrumental in that. And we also worked with James Keating, a former HR person for Trumbull County, to help us get it right. And we think we did get it right. So we have all kind of, all new job descriptions that are accurate. We have the ranges where they fell into were out askew for a long time. And so we made some salary adjustments to the staff. We have 12 full-time staff people down there, including our directors and deputy directors. So a year ago, we didn't restructure, but we, based on the new ranges and things like that and seniority, and going off the Trumbull County wage and salary schedule, that's what we're using to be consistent with the county. We implemented those things. What this represents is the last 2 pieces of the puzzle. Since 2023, when we did all this, our director and deputy director have been waiting because their range has changed. But we haven't had time to implement it because we were implementing everybody else's. So this is the year that we decided to remove the peaks and valleys. Let's put them on an hourly range. I think we moved them from a range 11 to 14, 11 to 14. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate. When I look at the top 100 people, salaries in Trumbull County, our director and deputy directors aren't even, we might be in the top 100, but they're being paid at an appropriate level to retain good talent. Remember too, these folks have 20 years experience. I can't affect that seniority axis. All right. And I can't affect the range axis. It is what it is. But we are trying to do the responsible thing to control overtime by eliminating overtime for the director and deputy director. And there will be times when there are multiple elections, special elections, where they're going to have added responsibility. They're going to have to be there, and they're not going to be eligible for overtime. The comp that they have is capped down to 160. Okay, so we made that adjustment. We capped their comp. So we're doing everything we can in the spirit of, hey, come on, we're all in this together as a county. We want to do the responsible thing. We really feel, I'm going to go on the record, we are proud that we are one of the most fiscally sound departments in Trumbull County, if not the Our budget is accurate. We do not spend frivolously. We go without capital improvements for 20 years. I mean, there's lots of things. We take advantage of grants and things like that. So I hope that clears up some of the misunderstanding that this was not a raise. Nobody asked for a raise. The board did not approve a raise. This was a restructuring of their compensation. And then I will also say in closing that Commissioner Malloy had asked me to take a look at the vacation and sick conversion. And so we did that and we did change it. There was some uncertainty there, Mr. Malloy. As far as ours is at sick leave is at 100, reduced down from 120, and our vacation is at 180, reduced down from 240. So that went into effect for that.
That was for this year. It was voted on March 5th of 2024.
Yeah.
You know, the rest of the counties at 80 and 40, you're at 180 and 100.
Well, no, I mean, in Metro Parks is 120 and 120. Board of Health is vacation only 240. The engineer is at 80 and 40.
Separate funds.
Okay.
They're not under the commissioners.
The recorder is sick leave 100, vacation 180. That's same as ours. Ask me is the same as ours. Sheriff's 120 and 240. 120 and 240.
It's not bargaining.
Okay.
We're talking not bargaining.
And 911 is 80 and 120. But anyway, you asked.
Right, like you said, you're talking bargaining units, not non-bargaining.
Okay, but you asked us to do that and we
Sure.
did that. So we're at 100 and 180. Again, we're trying to do our part, our fair share to be responsible departments within Trumbull County. So if anybody has any questions around this, I'm open to field any.
No, I guess I'll start, because I'm the most vocal with this. The salary, we got things here, was it 71,799? And now we're at 96, looking according to the 96,808 is what it is
After
now.
4%, right?
Yes,
Okay.
but you went from 71, which really 73 last year, to 96. You know, how do you say that's not a $23,000 raise?
Well, it actually calculates out to an $18,000 raise. Well, now it's 23 based on the 4%
Okay,
that we
right.
can do. You're not taking into consideration the overtime.
They're department heads. Our policy and procedure, department heads don't get overtime in Trumbull County. And if you're on a department scale, you're violating our policy as it is by paying overtime to department heads. Alexander doesn't get overtime. Gary Newbrow doesn't get overtime. Any department head in Trumbull County does not get overtime except for your two employees under your board that you've been paying overtime against policy and procedure in Trumbull County.
Okay.
So you're trying to bring things into compliance, but you're basing it on something where you weren't compliant at all.
All I can say is that I don't know how.
So because of your mistake you made by paying overtime, you want the county to eat that mistake.
Not at all. It wasn't our mistake. For as long as I can
It
remember.
wasn't your mistake. Who signed off on the overtime sheets?
The director and the deputy director.
Okay,
Let me
the same ones that sat here when we had our budget meeting and gave us the budget and said the raises are gonna be implemented. Never said a word that these things went into effect in June, not one word. And when we asked about it and said you're gonna go from two employees at 96,000 a year, and the very next employee underneath you, the very next one, with all the employees you have in that office, all these hardworking people that make these elections possible, the very next one's at 47,900. So you want a deputy director to make 45, or a director and a deputy director make $45,000 more than the next employee under the list, and you don't see that that's like the Apple CEO versus the employee scale. I think every resident of Trumbull County is gonna look and say, what are they doing so much more work that they're making almost $50,000 more than everyone that works for them? That's ludicrous.
In your opinion.
Portage County operates on 1.5 million a year. How does Portage County Board of Elections operate on that? You need 2.1 when they do the exact same thing you do. Same congressman, same court of appeals, same number of county seats, same number of trustees. How do they operate on 1.5? You need more than that.
Less registered voters in Trumbull County.
40,000 less registered voters operate on the same budget that we have, but their Board of Elections is 1.5 is what their budget is. And they abide by it. They work under that.
Yeah, I'll give.
How much, and if we're giving away so much overtime.
We're not giving away overtime.
Well, if we were, If you said they were making $20,000 a year in overtime, that's why you wanted to bring them up to the same pay as what they were making with overtime?
Yes, and we looked at the W-2s to make sure that these were
If
not.
any of our department heads gave themselves $20,000 overtime, they gave an employee underneath them $20,000 in overtime a year, we as a board of commissioners would be looking at department heads saying, how are you not doing your job? You have to give so much overtime on a
Yeah.
department. We have to budget it.
Commissioner Lake, you obviously have not a good understanding of how overtime is incurred at the Board of Elections and how this is mandated time.
And our
set
department heads
forth
can
by the
flex time within the
Secretary of
week to
State.
avoid
We have
overtime situations.
overtime, we have early voting, we have to have a bipartisan effort whenever we do anything. We have training, we have campaign finance, public records, we have hearings. There are times when overtime is not a option, it is a necessity.
And you can't flex during those weeks. The department heads couldn't flex time out within a work week as
They
allowed by
don't-
policy and procedures.
Well, they don't get it, they're not eligible for. eligible
They
for-
are eligible for flex time, as are all the department heads, and that's what they do.
What's that?
Instead of giving us an overtime bill, they
Yeah.
flex their time so they're
Well,
not
we-
in an overtime
It's
situation.
been this board's policy, they are not eligible for flex
That's
time.
right.
But here's the thing, I don't know how long this has been, maybe, Steve McJensen can answer the question. Well, before I came on to the Board of Elections, these directors and deputy directors were paid hourly wages and they were eligible for overtime. And I've been doing this for 12 years and I didn't change anything, but that's what it's always been. So I don't know what to say.
So if they were uncompliant, we just need to keep thinking uncompliant, just stick with the uncompliance.
Well, what's your suggestion?
Something more reasonable than,
Board of Commissioners, Alex Steve Johnson Bush, just because my name was brought into this. I can only attest to when I came on board, you guys have your own board. The opinions of the prosecutor's office is if you have your own board and your own policies and procedures, then that's what you guys adhere to. I think I just heard you say very loud and clear, your own board doesn't allow flex time. Our board does allow this. So the Fair Labor Standard Act is the number one thing that we need to consider. Myself as an HR director, and I hope Mr. Jim Keating told you the same thing in 2023 when you engaged his services. I would have gladly told you that Fair Labor Standard Act, there's a derivative amount per year. You can only make so much money. After you make that amount of money, you are not entitled to overtime, especially if you're in an executive, professional, or administrative role. That is very clear for the Department of Labor and Fair Labor Standards Act. So that would have been something that would have been concerning to me had I been brought into the conversation, which I was not. Secondly,
I don't know if they met that cap ever.
I would tend to, if they made over 63,000, they absolutely did, which they did. I know they did.
Yes.
So, yes.
Hourly, they were making, yes.
Yes, so they should not have been overtime. That's okay. That's here nor there. All right, it is what it is. Outside of that, our Trumbull County Policies and Procedures has a very clear policy on who is exempt versus not exempt, so on and so forth. And then that would delineate whether you're eligible for comp time, flex time, whatever the case may be. So again, I'm not trying to, but you did ask me my opinion. I'm going to give it to you. Had anybody engaged my services, I would have absolutely told you what the correct path would be for an HR salary standard.
Well, what we were doing is, this board would be more than willing to have these conversations.
Sure.
To make sure that we are in compliance. I absolutely know that we are fiscally responsible. We are not overpaying anybody. On the surface, I see what it could be misconstrued as.
Sure.
But I rest assured, they are not going to be making any more money than they have been previously, I think, over odd years, even years, presidential years, et cetera. Some years they may in fact make less on this new plan. And we're managing that over time and comp. In other years, they may make a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be negligible. But I'd be willing as a board, speaking on behalf of my board, to have any further conversations about how this board, somewhat of an autonomous board, chooses to compensate our employees. And if I heard you correctly, we have that ability to do that. So we're not out of compliance with the Trumbull County wage and salary schedule or your guidelines or whatever. We don't necessarily have to adhere to it.
we don't necessarily have to give you the budget you want either.
Oh, no, that's fine. You're gonna give it one way or another. You can do it today, or you can do it at the end, and you can be surprised. And you can be, with the end of the year, when other counties are running short on their budgets that they requested, and we're spot on. You know exactly what we need. And that's what we need to run, and operationalize our election system. If we fall short, we're gonna come back and we're gonna request a transfer of funds from this fund to that fund, or for you to us, and we're gonna get that. But I'm proposing that what's a better, more proactive approach is to know what we need up front, instead of giving us 28% less, knowing that we're gonna be in 1%, I would predict. But if you're okay with go at the end of the year, when things are even tighter, coming back and asking for, giving us more, that's fine by me. But
How much less work do you anticipate in this year compared to a presidential year? Percentage of work wise, percentage of overtime wise, what's the budget on that forecast?
Stephanie, I mean,
Well, we have a statewide election in May. I don't know if you're aware of. So we budgeted we always budget for 2 full elections, and thank goodness we did, because we have a statewide primary in Ohio. So we have mandated voting hours. And we have, as Chairman Alberini mentioned, we have to have an equal number of Democrats and Republicans to run an election. You can't flex and have the director come in the morning
Right.
and the deputy director come in later and have an unbalanced number of people.
so I mean, to answer Commissioner,
I do see less overtime, which is why we requested less money this year than we did last year.
Not much less, comparatively with other counties on how they did it. And when we looked at other counties, like I said, I'm not lying to you about Portage. Pull up on the internet right now and you'll see. Portage was last year and where they are this year. There's almost a $700,000 difference between presidential year and non-presidential year. Yeah, I think you requested 200,000 less.
yes.
And so how can one county do it $500,000 more efficiently than we can?
I'm not saying I don't know what Portage County's operational, how they're set up. I don't know how they're staffed or anything like that. We went.
Weren't they set up by the state and by the Secretary of State, wasn't there guidance that?
We also have contracts with different voting machine and voter registration vendors that are based on your amount of registered voters, and you've admitted they have 40,000 less registered voters than we do. That makes a big difference. The amount of ballots you have to order are based on how many registered voters.
But they also have, out of 40,000, they have 40,000 more independent voters than we have. So they don't vote in primaries in a Republican or Democrat, because they're registered independents or non-partisan.
Most of our voters are nonpartisan. They do not have a party affiliation. Most voters in Trumbull County do not have a party affiliation.
So that
Most
alleviates the
voters,
pressure during the primary, because they won't vote in the primary.
unless they vote issues only, which is a valid option for any voter, and which will happen this year because the majority of the population in this upcoming May election will not have a party ballot. They'll have an issues only ballot.
Yeah, so I mean, I was simply coming here,
But you don't think that's a morale issue just in the department when the top 2 people make 96 and the next one makes 50? I mean, you got people who worked there for many, many years. And I'm sitting there in my cubicle right now thinking, wow, she's getting 50,000 more than me almost.
I have one person who's worked there 20 years. Everybody else has less than 5 years experience.
comparing 5 years.
So the one person worked there 20 years makes 40-some thousand dollars less than you, and you think that's fair?
What's
She also
an
makes
entry level
overtime.
clerk here at Trumbull County make, and what do you make? Same exact thing. Same exact.
Well, the only difference is his salary set by the state.
Right, and we got department heads under us, and then assistant department heads and controllers, and there's a
I'm not asking you
ladder
to justify
progression.
it. I'm not asking you to justify it.
I think the bottom line here, Mr. Alberini, is Penrose. We're gonna get to the budget meeting to see what monies we do have to delegate. If you do have to come back, yeah, you do. But here's the thing. There's only so much to go around. All the departments are saying what you're saying. And I get that. I understand, you gotta do business, you got expenses. So where we're gonna end up, we're not sure, but that's why we're having a meeting Thursday to see exactly how to delegate what we do have to those departments. Apart from, whatever the pays are and everything. separately speaking, we're gonna have to come up with an appropriated amount of money to be able to delegate, you know, to the board.
Do
of
you have
Finance.
to, it was told to us that you guys have comps of other counties around here and what they're getting paid. That's what Kathy told me on the phone, said that board member Campbell got the comps for everybody presented at the board meeting to show where they should be on that level 15, whatever. Do you have any of that stuff?
14. I didn't bring it with
I just
me,
want to
but
make
that-
sure, Alex, you and Jonesy Bush, it is in 14. I want to make sure. I'm not here to tell you either way, board commissioners, it's your decision and it's your decision as board. I'm just here to give you the actual facts and what is.
But at the time, we didn't, I was informed that, didn't Marlea Campbell have a conversation with you and
No,
didn't she
never.
confirm never?
Never, not
Okay,
once.
okay.
Was, you
That would be
gave
correct.
us, you did give us,
Marlena Campbell never had a
I'm
conversation.
not, I'm not saying she did, I
Well,
finished
he
my
did.
sentence. Or not she, you gave us some comparables of other directors in Trumbull.
I did not. I gave you a pay scale of what, I gave you a pay scale.
If you look at other, you're advertising a job for maintenance at a 15.
HR was never engaged in this process as far as having conversations about what other people made. I can tell you right here, right now, I was not engaged in the
Well,
process.
okay.
So to state that would be unfair. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm just telling what I was told. I'm not making a statement.
You were told by,
I was told that, a conversation was had with the HR director about, these ranges. And maybe a comment about, I wouldn't do that job at 11 was made.
So therefore, the
Did you
statement
make that?
that I didn't.
Did you
So
say I wouldn't?
At first, your comment was, and we can go back and listen to the record, your comment was that I was asked to get comparables from other counties. Did we not all hear that? Now the story's changing to.
Sarah, the story's not changing.
Comparables from other counties.
So I didn't have anything to do with that. That's what I'm saying. I did not have anything to do with
Okay.
Other county directors.
that. Okay. What does that have to do with other boards of elections though?
It doesn't.
Okay. So if you come to me and ask for what other directors in the county make, that's the public record, of course I'm gonna give that to you. That has nothing to do with other board of elections.
No, and that's what I said, other directors of other county agencies.
She wasn't referring to the.
I wasn't.
what was told to me by Mr. Christopher on the phone was Marlea Campbell had the comps of other board of elections
That's where
across the county and
Do I?
and their staffs and what their budgets were, and that's what they gauged.
So this is what I have is their, all the counties and what their director and deputy directors made.
So I did not.
So, and you did not provide
We
that,
got
or was
that
it
from our
stated that you provided that?
Ohio Association of Elections.
What's that?
We got that from the Ohio Association of
Okay.
Elections.
So I'm not quite sure what you're asking for as far as what we have. Was this,
Well, these right here
oh, okay.
are what every county's registered voters and their salaries.
So, yeah. So, okay, so we have the county name, the number of registered voters, number of voters who voted, the director salary, deputy director salary, and the final grand total. So you're more than welcome. I mean, you can, for 21 and 23. So we looked at these. We contacted other boards of elections, contacted other counties to see, number one, how are you paying your folks? Is it hourly, straight hourly, and no OT, comp, or flex, or is it a combination of whatever? And it was a myriad of everything. Different counties did different things. And I have that on another spreadsheet that shows you that. And so when we looked at these and we did comparables, we are right in the middle of where many of the like counties that with the same electoral registered voters, right in the mix of that. Now, there may be outliers like a Portage County who actually didn't respond to this survey and wasn't on there, ironically. There may be an outlier like that, but there may be other outliers too that show that counties that have far less electors are paying their people more. So it was kind of all over, but we did the best job that we could to make sure that our compensation package was fair for the director and the deputy director. And again, they're not making any more money this year than they did last year. It's just restructured. And so
Can I interject? In
Go ahead.
2023, Portage County Director made $92,991.50.
And the deputy director made,
$90,000, $90,949.48.
to say how long they were there.
It's probably years of service that delineated the two.
Exactly, and I have 23 years of service with this county, as does
And
my.
Andrea has,
21.
Yeah,
If you brought in 2 new people at a range 14, they'd make quite a bit less because they don't have the years of service. And might I say, experience that I have in elections.
and keep in mind that, I mean, boards of elections, think about what they're there for. I mean, this is the pillars of democracy. These are what get you your, this is what
Mark,
get
we
you your
totally-
jobs.
we totally
So
understand that.
these are things where you don't cut costs, you don't cut corners. You know, you're still being fiscally responsible, but this is an area, this is a service agency. We've got to be there, we've got to be right, and we've got to be accurate. There's no margin for error. And again, I'm going to fall back on the accuracy of our forecasting year over year over year. It's spot on. And I respect whatever you have to do as far as appropriations, I get that. But I'm just telling you, this is what it's going to cost to run the Board of Elections this year.
And I personally understand that. I've had to do that on a township level. People gotta come back, you gotta reappropriate, you got, unfortunate, but
No, I
you
understand.
don't have so much money.
If
to
there's
go.
areas where we can cut and trim, be the first to step up and
I
do
mean,
that.
you have to understand what we get too, when we had the meeting here, when people look and see 75 to 93, was said now it's 96. The public perception on that is
Well,
through
it's
the
your-
roof.
It's
They're
your
ready to
job to
tar and
explain.
feather us.
It's your job to explain.
We're in a year where
And
we're
I'll
cutting,
help you explain.
we're in a year we're
If-
cutting $16 million back, 10 million solid. We still have to cut 3 million more. We already have you 1.5, and we still have to cut 3 million more. And we have to balance our budget by law. We have to balance our budget. We have to cut back. So in a year when we're cutting back on everything, raising salaries, whatever, however, smoke and mirrors.
You're telling
the
me half the
difference-
story.
Well,
You're right.
Then cut back on overtime. If we cut back, then
We
it'd
can't
be
cut
the
off.
same.
I just explained why we can't cut back on overtime. I just explained that. It's out of our hands largely, for all the reasons that I said. If you want the narrative to be, we are raising salaries, go ahead. That's not the narrative. The narrative is we restructured our comp plan for our director and deputy director. They're going to make negligibly no more or no less than they have in previous years. We're doing our job to reduce and cap these expenditures, to be good stewards of the county's money, to work with commissioners like yourselves. That's what we're
And
trying
they're
to
still
do.
gonna get comp time, and they're still gonna be able to cash out
They got-
180 hours and 100 hours of sick and vacation time in March or whatever.
Well, they
So
are.
do that.
I mean, that's the, we came down in compliance with sick and vacation conversion. We did what you asked. We did that. With-
Not the 80/40 that the rest of the county does. You went down to 180 and 100
We have that on
under us.
our agenda, for this year, on tomorrow's meeting.
Yeah.
I'm sure the board will discuss that at that time.
Yeah, but yeah, we're open to, we're trying to be good. Again, we have demonstrated that we're good stewards of the county's money. We get that we need to work with you all too. We understand your challenges. This is a difficult situation. And again, if there's any areas that we can cut or reduce costs or trim overtime, we've looked at that upside down, sideways, every which way to Sunday. And we're pretty solid on where we landed, just like we've demonstrated in years past. So, the nice thing for you all, I think that you should be appreciative, and I know you are, that you got a good agency that knows exactly how to forecast their budgets, and you know exactly what you're gonna be
Well,
in
I'm
it
not
for.
questioning that. Yeah, I don't question.
Yeah, I know, I'm
The
just saying.
professionality, professionalism.
So,
I just wish, I guess personally, some of that raise would have been spread to the employees below.
not a raise.
Well, some of those
They're-
overtime hours or whatever would have been disseminated differently.
23, their plans were restructured.
Yeah, 21 and
23.
21 and 23, their plans were all restructured. Their salary schedule there was horrible. I mean, for a long time, it was just out of skew. You would, if you went to McDonald's, you were getting a raise, trust me. You were getting a raise. So we were losing people. They were going to other places for minimum wage jobs. The comp cost, the recurring cost of interviewing and training and retraining, and then having to do it all over again, because you can't keep competent people, it saves money in the long run. No different than, Commissioner Moore, I respect your opinion on that. Everybody's gonna have one. I'm not gonna argue, I'm not gonna dispute it or anything. It's your opinion. But I think that the way that there is no problem with morale. We've got a fantastic staff there. It's a good working environment. It could be a model for, many places. So I'm not worried about that, but I hear what you're saying. Those are my comments.
Mr. Alberini and Stephanie, Deputy Director, are the employees on the salary wage scale now, are they getting the 4% that, so,
Yes.
okay, so again, in 2021 and Alex DiVincenzi, Motion Start, Human Resources Director. So in 2021 and 2023, is that when you put them on the county pay scale, or
I
how?
want to say it was 21, they were finally put on the
The county pay scale?
Yes.
Okay, and what would they be on the county pay scale at?
I'm sorry.
What range are they at?
Depends on their job classification.
Okay,
You start at a 6.
okay,
And we have people on that are 7s.
okay, thank you. And then they continuously every year with the Me Too get the 4% or whatever percent of increases.
Yes.
Okay,
And they of course get the years of service raises.
so you're on the same pay scale, so the range and the
Yes.
steps.
Yes.
Okay, so before they were at the 6 or 7, when they were at the 6 or 7, was that when you guys were at the 11 or they were lower?
We were at the 11, we've been at the 11 since we were put on the pay scale in 2021.
Yes, it would have been 818, 2021, I believe.
We were never put on the pay scale prior.
818, 18, what I used there, but yes, that was the effective pay range year 11. Okay. What were the county, or what were the employees at that point, though? Were they at that?
We
6
were
or
all
7,
put on the range at the same time. They were starting at $9 an hour. Prior to that, $9.99 an hour.
Okay, so everybody went to the county pay scale in 2021, is what we're saying.
I believe so. It's hard to recall all those dates exactly without looking at the minutes.
Sure. I understand that. A lot of numbers and dates, I get it. Okay, so the substantive change is that you essentially, your board just passed that you guys went from an 11 to pay range 11 to a pay range 14. Right. Okay,
And elimination of overtime.
yes, yeah, well, overtime, yes. We can agree or disagree. We can agree to disagree on that or whatever the case may be, but overtime should not be allowed. But that's your,
I think it just was the way we inherited it and we didn't know any better.
listen. That is, I hear you loud and clear.
And I guess it remains on it. It's not a question. I don't think that we disagree. I think it's, what is it allowable or not allowable? I don't know. As far as being kind of somewhat of an autonomous board, do we have the ability to kind of structure it the way we want outside of the county boards? Wage and salary schedule.
So that would be a Fair Labor Standard Act. That's a federal law. That's different. That's not county policy. It is.
No, I'm talking about just the way we structure it. If we want to structure it with hourly and overtime, we're not allowed to do that.
No.
Okay.
If they're an executive role per Fair Labor Standards Act through the Department of Labor, that is a federal law. That's not a state law. That's not even a county law. That's a federal law. If you were to have been audited,
Yeah.
not on that,
We'll look into it more. We'll look into it more and,
I highly encourage you to go out to the Fair Labor Standard Act and you'll see what I'm not trying to give you a hard time.
no problem. I mean, if I might defer to a little bit, just to, Attorney Danza, who's our representative. Do you have any, I'm curious, as far as, are we acting within the law as far as our compensation? And what, Ms. DiVincenzi is citing as far as this other federal law.
Sure. What I would say, Bill Danzo, prosecutor's office, what I would say is that I'm not aware of what the amount is, and I would trust Alex's dollar amount and determination on duties. But the Fair Labor Standards Act would apply to you guys
Absolutely.
essentially no matter what.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that it does, if it says for these roles, overtime isn't permitted, we'd have to follow that. Now, where you guys do have a large amount of discretion is as an independent appointing authority, you do have a lot of discretion to set your salaries, benefits, work conditions, all those kind of things. So if you know, whatever you set for your pay scale, you do have some autonomy there. Obviously, you do receive your budget from the commissioners, so they have a role in funding your department. You have to live within the budget that they give. But there's I mean, as we've talked, there's also a lot of things that the commissioners have to weigh in making those decisions of how they allocate that budget to. So there's a lot of moving parts there, but you do have autonomy as far as generally the wages.
And it sounds like, again, maybe whether it was intentionally or accidentally, we became in compliance. So that's good.
I mean, you're here now in compliance, so yes, I'm not gonna disagree with you on that. I think that what we're seeing though, Mr. Danzo, is you and I have dealt with this quite a bit, not specific to the Board of Elections. So this is truly not to, we see this a lot with autonomous boards, okay? At the end of the day, this is where things get a little bit tricky. You are still paid by the Trumbull County auditor, and we do still have some accountability when it comes to audits and stuff like that. I can tell you right now, the Board of Elections did get audited on something that I had to answer to in the past. Yes, it wasn't this exact example, but at the end of the day, county HR is still having, as well as the prosecutor's office, as well as the Board of Commissioners. We have to try to work together in partnership as much as we can.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what more of this conversation needs to be about, is how we could have gotten ahead of this versus we're two autonomous people. Can we not work together so we can try to do the best for Trumbull County and avoid these situations?
Exactly the reason I'm here.
Me too. So, welcome.
So what we're saying is, okay, I've been very quiet, that the supervisors should not have gotten overtime. But then the $96,000 salary is based on their overtime,
They can determine their wages. You heard
Right.
Bill Danzo say.
right? That's how you base them going from 70,000 to 96,000. Correct?
Or you looked at how many hours they've worked, I'm assuming.
We looked.
How many hours it's gonna take to,
We took into account a lot of factors.
No, but I'm just saying, you know,
Yes.
I don't have the packet.
they shouldn't have got overtime, but you based the $96,000 on because they were receiving overtime. And I think that's kind of where Commissioner Moore has a problem.
Well, our director and deputy director are not going to do this job, nor should they, for $65,000 a year, or without overtime. Okay, so you have got.
Yeah, but I think what Commissioner Malloy said, maybe they could do it for 80,000.
I don't disagree with 65. That's not what, I just, is there,
And that's fine, that's everybody, that's an opinion that I'm going to respect.
In a non-election year coming up, they got to raise their presidential,
Excuse me, you could say
a
non-election.
non-presidential.
there's always.
Two elections every year. In 21, 22, and 23, we had 3 elections.
Right. It was special election.
The first year I worked in 2002, we had 5 elections. So please quit saying non-election years. That's
Non-presidential
an
year,
insult.
non-presidential
to us
year, I
as-
should say.
Yes.
Because we know presidential year, you're gonna get over 90,000 voters. We know non-presidential, we get a lot less than that.
But you still have mandated voting hours. We still have to be there a certain number of hours per day.
I get that,
That doesn't change.
right?
You have to do.
And that could be you, or it could be the person on the bottom of the total being there when that
So
happens,
you
right?
think I shouldn't be as a supervisor? I shouldn't be there when the board is
Well,
over?
I think if there's overtime doled out and the 2 directors gave themselves $20,000 in overtime, I think you could have looked at maybe doling that to save the county money, giving yourselves less overtime and spreading that amongst
I'm not
people below you.
People
and-
below us do get overtime.
As much as that,
I have reports to show you in 2024 how much overtime a couple of employees got that worked just as many hours as this week.
And Stephanie, they would be entitled, Alex and Jones Bush, just by looking at what they make, they would be entitled to overtime. They're below that threshold. So that's not the question here. I just want to make sure that in case I want to make sure everybody's informed on what they are entitled to overtime. That's a clear delineation and based off of, I'm assuming their job description would make them entitled to it. We'd have to look at all that, but I believe that's the case. I do. I know what you people do. I don't think anybody here is trying to say, I know what your staff does. I am a coworker myself. I don't think anybody here is trying to say that you're less deserving. I do appreciate you making the board aware. I would agree with Stephanie. There is always going to be issues on the ballot. There's never going to be a year where you don't have elections. However, I also feel like you do have to be a little bit honest going back and forth in this conversation of, we do know that overtime, of course, is going to be more immense or higher in a presidential election. I think that's what Commissioner Malou was trying to say.
I feel that it's my responsibility as the supervisor and the person who's gonna take the brunt of everything, if something goes wrong, that I'm there during open hours when we're voting.
Sure, I'm not disagreeing.
And I'm being told that I shouldn't be.
I don't know.
I take offense.
No, I'm saying there's ways to flex within a work week. There's ways to flex different things. I know you probably imagine you're maxed out on comp time. And then when you take time, when you don't take time, there's, you know, it's the whole big picture of the whole thing. They're being compensated, they're still getting comp time. Even now, they're still getting comp time, correct? Up to the maximum, even getting paid the salary until still be comp time eligible.
Yes, we put a cap on it.
Right? You put a cap on it, but they still can cash in a lot of that.
We're not allowed to cash in or comp time.
Not allowed to cash in, but they cash in vacation time.
When you cash in
And
vacation
use their
and sick, and
comp time
comp
to
time has to
vacation.
be, correct. Comp time has to be used. It can't be cashed in for monetary value.
Okay.
At least that's county policy. I don't know what you guys have at your own board policy, but
At our board as well.
And then my last comment, just in response to you, Commissioner Bernard, I think that this board has done our responsible background, looking at other county directors and deputy directors, Trumbull County, what everybody's getting paid. Throughout the other 88 counties in Ohio, looking at directors and deputy directors, how many electors they have and things like that. We went through all of them. And I think that they are not the highest paid, they are not the lowest paid. They are at a competitive salary that I think is necessary to retain this good talent, especially at the level of experience they have. So that's just my response to you.
And what you said 30 minutes ago, you're gonna get one way or the other, because the state's gonna give it to you.
Yeah.
It's mandated,
Yeah,
right?
but I'm just trying to be a good department steward. I mean, of your money, I'd like you to know up front what you're gonna be faced with, then.
I just want you to know everybody's problem here.
Yeah, I understand.
Is, we're $4 million short.
Yeah.
And no one questions
Yeah.
what the Board of Elections does. I mean, I just went through an election and so did Commissioner. And there's one thing for sure, we know that you guys run a good ship. We don't question what goes on there. Okay, I mean, we're very confident in what you guys do there.
We'll continue to do our part to help you guys.
And you guys had a big election. You guys, there were a lot of people there, and you guys ran it without a hit.
The Secretary of State continually recognizes us year after year for doing a good job. We have our audits, post-election audits. We score great on, so very, very proud of the operations that they have down there. Thank you for having us. I hope we answered some questions. We're not always going to agree on everything, but the thing I think we need to lead with is the fact that there's a spirit here of cooperation, and we want to get to the end result.
No, let's just have better communication down the road, because when we got hit with it and we're looking at things on paper and a budget thing, and it's like, well, and then we find out that this raise was already given in June, and we were told this is for budget for next year. We were like, wait a minute, how? We were never told that when they were here. And we said maybe a board member should have been here telling us that, and not the employee telling us about a raise they were getting from another entity. That would have dispelled some of the stuff initially. But then again, it doesn't excuse not being in compliance with policy for all those other years when we weren't supposed to be getting overtime. Now we're on track with being across the board, which I guess is good. Like you said, by mistake, you're in compliance now, but it doesn't excuse years we weren't in compliance.
I mean, if all these, of all these other counties that pay hourly and that pay overtime, are they all out of compliance with this fair?
You'd have to look at, each one is different, to your point, so you can.
Yeah.
You have to look at that threshold.
There's 88 counties and 88 different ways to do it.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about the director and deputy director.
Yeah.
I don't want to commingle, you know what I mean? There's
understand.
a true difference in
Yeah.
what the job description is which then delineates what their job classification is, and then if
Well,
they're.
We'll lean on you for a little bit more guidance in the future then.
I am more than happy to help. They know I will help
Yeah.
with whatever you need. I provided them with what our directors in the county need. But that's as far as what was asked of me. No other conversations were had.
Yeah, no, and I want to make clear, we never asked you about
No,
other
you did not.
boards. No,
you did not.
I meant county directors.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you,
Commissioners.
Mark.
Appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Thanks.
Stephanie,
All right.
thank you.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Let's see, where are we at?
I'm just here,
Just
sunset
enjoying the show.
transportation, yeah.
Do we have, anybody else? Well,
I have a couple
yes, please.
questions. Lisa Denuncia, Blair Park. The week of February 24th, you're all three, I understand, gonna be out, so I want to confirm the meeting dates.
I'd recommend we just cancel the meeting for that date. We've proven over the last couple of years, we've been in excess of 40 more meetings than what we need to have to be in compliance with the state. And if we skip 1 week, we've done it 8 or 10 times a year for the last couple of years, and we've been able to pick it up the following week.
Okay, so no workshop, no regular meeting night.
That's what I'd recommend, but I'm open to
Fine.
suggestions.
Yeah, and the reason is because we're all gonna be down at the.
Right.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Chair Taylor, well, I'm not a council clerk anymore. I just have, while I have everyone together, we have a special meeting on Thursday for the budget. I'm getting phone calls. Can we possibly make up a schedule for the department head so that everyone's not here at the same time, that we can have just.
Well, Alex Stephen Johnson, Bush Human Resources Department, I think the Board of Commissioners, the intent was you wanted everybody to hear the conversations. We're in a little bit of a, this is not the atypical.
That's not why they're asking this. It's not that they don't want to be all together. They think that's going to be complete chaos and to get through one at a time without,
But that's not their.
and they all don't want to sit here together.
That's the board.
I don't think we're going to, we're not going to hear from them one at a time. I think we're gonna give them the commissioners.
Okay.
I just want to
Budget,
make sure the
Okay.
intent was clear.
and
No,
we're gonna
it's not.
basically let them
You
know
it's
that,
not clear. They think that they're coming in.
no, they're not gonna give us their wish
Okay.
list again, and we're not gonna go through that. Listen, here's the amount of money we have. You gotta go to the drawing board, figure it out.
And I think by having them all together makes them realize the more you ask for, the less the guy sitting next to you is gonna get, and let them understand we're all on the same team.
Yes.
And we need all the teammates rowing in the same direction and understanding their choices affect other departments, just like this here.
Right.
You know, it
I do
affects other
believe,
departments.
however, that that's not what has been conveyed in their minds. It's just another budget hearing.
Okay, somehow or other, we'll need to, well,
Okay.
get across to them.
Convey that to them.
I can't. I absolutely can't.
Now, this isn't gonna be them saying, hey, commissioners, we're doing this for, here's what we got, this is what, no, we don't wanna hear that. What we're gonna say is, here's what we have. Go back to the drawing board and figure out what you gotta do, because we're gonna have to make some,
I think some departments already have been working on that.
that's good.
In anticipation, because that's what they were told.
Well, because I think Alex put that out.
Correct. So
And-
it's
and-
already been done, so that's
And
not
thank you, Alex, for doing that, because they need to know that.
understood.
Yeah.
But they're coming in with numbers for you. That's what,
But the only problem is they don't know that we've already cut it. Yeah, I mean.
well, I think some have been told, and
They might have been
they're
watching too. It was
expecting
public.
to get
Yeah.
some numbers.
Well, they could give us numbers, but we don't expect any conversation on it. We'll look at the numbers after they give them to us and then have to make some decisions on it, I guess. We can't go through all the departments and be here all day and just listen to them
Correct.
again. You just-
I realize that, but that is the impression that has been put out, that
I
that's what's
understand.
going to be going on. Hence the
If-
request for a schedule, because the judges won't want to be here all day.
No, they won't.
Yeah,
They have things to do. Time is money.
I would say if that's the narrative that we're putting out, if some can't make it, they already know what the situation is. Go to the drawing board and just do it. If you can't be here, you know what I mean? The
I
judges
think they're
especially.
doing it though. I think they've already been working on it and doing
Right.
it.
Okay,
So then that's a good point. So if that's the case, Cheryl, somebody needs to be able to communicate back with the Board of Commissioners. like what their final number is. They just let them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
they don't really have to come and make this big
Well,
presentation, but
right.
somebody's gotta come and
Nobody ever
say-
said it was a presentation, but
Right.
the board did give very clear directive. They wanted everybody here. That's all the board needs to speak to.
Yes.
Because that's what the board asked, not Alex. That's what the board was.
We'll be respectful of their time. We know some people have to leave, especially with the judges.
Yeah.
Whatever, without a doubt. Now, the people
Okay.
under our department, they're gonna be expected to stay a little longer.
I will be able to
potentially.
convey, since
Well,
I'll be
maybe
able to convey this.
board, if it's that big of a point of contingency, maybe you could suggest that elected officials get to go first and then they can go, and then discussions can be had and
That's
then
fine.
if you need to keep back your actual department heads, so be it, because that's under the Board of Commissioners, okay? But maybe that's the better way, but at the end of the day, I heard very loud and clear, I sat through each meeting. You guys want to be able to show realistically, everybody at one time where we're at, so they're hearing it from the top down.
Right.
That's at the end of the day.
I just don't think that has been the impression that they've gotten. They just think it's another special meeting. So I'll convey this to whoever calls me. I've already had a couple, so I'll take care of that and we'll get it going.
So Commissioners, Bill Danso from the prosecutor's office, if I understand you, you're gonna want people here, but perhaps instead of explanations, do you as a board maybe want people to attend, but then also present something maybe written to the board so that you guys can review it in writing, or I guess if you're saying kind of go back and look at your budgets again, is that preferable to having it explained again in the, I guess.
I don't think we should ask them to do anything until they see our presentation and see
Okay.
where we are.
So
And then
maybe
give
this
them
is-
homework to come back for next week, present something in writing. And then we could plan on next week having our final meeting and actually staying here until we're done.
Okay, so
Locking the door and staying here. until
this
we're
may
done.
be more of like a informative thing for all of the offices and departments to come
important.
hear from the
Right.
board. But you don't expect anything to actually be done or presented this week.
Correct.
Okay, that, I'll be honest, I don't think that was clear in the way that this came
Yeah.
through, so I appreciate that.
Stacy McDonough, 911 director. I think, just to go on what Bill said, as somebody who got that email, that's not how I interpreted it at all, so I'm glad it kind of got brought up. I think if an email is sent out, maybe reply all to that, just saying, we're gonna present to you where, like, if you think my 911 budget needs to be X, then how do I need to get to that?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna stop you all here because this is a little bit frustrating. The board told me what to say. You're like,
I'm not
I can be as good as what the board tells me. They said, be
I'm not-
prepared
I'm
to
not saying that.
cut,
I'm
be
just saying
prepared.
as somebody who
I mean,
received it-
board, you guys can't just, I'm not gonna send out emails anymore if you're just
No,
gonna leave me out here to hang. I don't appreciate that.
No, I'm not saying that at all, at all. I'm not saying that at all. The way I interpret it is it's gonna be a discussion on
Yeah,
budget and where
that's
we
all.
cut, where
That's
we
not
do
your-
things. And then it could turn into, as you saw, which is what happened
Mm-hmm.
there. That was 40 minutes of what none of us really needed to be here for. So I think that's what kind of everybody's probably anticipating is it's gonna be a 3-hour.
Well, I mean,
discuss and, you know.
it is. It's gonna be 3 hours of how we collectively figure out general fund.
Yeah, I
period.
mean,
I mean,
you're gonna have to,
You know, I just think it would be
you're gonna have
helpful
to
for
do
them
it
to
at some
say,
time.
we
It just
expect you
won't
and
be
not
Thursday.
to get to this.
Right.
Try to help us make it happen, and then I know that I'm expected to try to get to
Right,
this.
so you gotta get
even
it
though-
close to
right.
your last
That's
year's
what
I feel that that'll be beneficial.
That's all I mean. I'm
Yeah.
not saying how you wrote the emails.
Not much to write, Raymond.
That's how I think everybody's interpreting it, and it's gonna be just as big.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to clarify. I just needed to so I know what to say to people. But that's her question. So I know we're presenting.
We want them to come and listen to us,
Gotcha.
so we can tell our story, so everybody knows where we're at. And then at some point in time, everybody's gonna have to cut.
which is what the email said, prepare to do
Right.
X, Y, Z. That is exactly what
Whether
the
you
email said.
do
Be
it
prepared to
Thursday
do
or
that.
you do it the following week.
It didn't
they're
say
gonna have to
prepared
do
to
it.
do that Thursday, it said prepared to do this. That's literally what it said.
I can tell you too, Ashtabula finalized their stuff on Friday. I don't know if you saw the memos of that. I get a copy of it for each of you from Commissioner Kozlowski up there. They ruffled a lot of feathers. They're in the same situation as us. They went, they cut, and they basically sat down as commissioners and said, we're telling you what you have to live under, and they did it, and they're getting all kind of flack afterward, but they're standing by the decision of we are responsible to the taxpayers to set the budget, and you have to live within your budget that you have, and if you can't, you better have a damn well good excuse then down the road why you can't, and that means cutting back on overtime, it means cutting back on services, it means whatever you gotta do. Short of coming to us and saying, I can't do it, lay somebody off, then we're gonna have to do that. Asheville did it, Orange County did it, we can do it, we'll get it done.
Everybody's under the same. I'm just getting questions. They just don't know what's going to happen on Thursday. I guess I should just put it that simple. So whatever calls I get, I'll take them.
And we do need, for tomorrow, we need an executive session put on at the end with Attorney Conover. He texted me and said that he'd like that, and I think we should also, at the end, I think we should also potentially reach out to Mr. Wilson, who's the attorney regarding the Leavittsburg situation, since it was brought up today that we're drug into something here with our name, and we have an email from him that he needs to meet with us to discuss. Let's see if Mr. Wilson potentially could be available tomorrow, even by phone. We can do a session with him to see where we stand with that right now, to get an update from him. And Lisa, potentially, if you can call him, see if he's available tomorrow about 11:30, that would be probably good. Schedule Brody for 11:15, and then him after that.
You want him here?
If he wants to be, if not, we can do it, via phone. It'd be nice if he was here, but with attorney's time and what we're paying him, we can do it by phone.
Court case or something.
Right. I don't want to put words, especially this late notice of whatever, but.
Okay. Bob, Mariana.
Bob Mariano, sanitary controller. Commissioners, I just wanted to ask about the status of my agenda. So water rates, can I put it on for next week?
One of the things that I personally would like to ask Bob, this increase, this 80%, all these numbers, these big percentage. Is there a number, Gary, if there were an increase that we could live with, like if we shorten that, to a different percentage? So it's not such a sticker shock, you know what I mean?
So I guess the best way to answer it is every district outside of Hamlin and Graceville is in the roughly 30 to 40% range,
Right.
which is similar to what was passed in 2011 by the commissioners. So Champion, Bezetta, Warren Township, they're all facing a similar increase that they had 14 years ago. Howland's rate is just the lowest, and if we're gonna go to one rate, they're gonna face the biggest increase. I talked to former administrator Darlene, and I talked to James Panalone about it, and they at least understand it. Gary asked me to sharpen my pencil on the rate and where we were at, and we went through it. And basically, maybe I have 6 cents of extra in there, so we could do 12.40. It's kind of where we're at. To operate, we estimated 330,000 additional bulk water costs in 2025 compared to last year. So we lost $1.5 million last year, just based off not even the labor increase, but based off the additional bulk water. We're looking at 1.8, $1.9 million loss this year, and we started the year with half of it. So it is inevitable that we're going to be negative in the next couple of months. And that's all we can do is recommend the rate to the board. So I'm just here to ask if I can put it on for next week, and if there's more discussion needed. Like I've said numerous times, we're always available. We'll come and meet one-on-one. I'll bring I'll get you whatever information you need. But basically the story is all the communities that raise their bulk water cost to us, we have not passed it on to the consumer. That's the end of. We could lay off our entire water staff. And
You said that.
We're gonna
I put
lose,
it out there, but
we lose.
We've
$1.5
got-
million this year.
we've got townships making resolutions.
Well, have you looked at any cost savings at all out there that you can look at? I've been waiting for you guys to come back in saying, we can cut this, we can cut this, we can cut this. And I haven't heard it, I haven't seen it. And that's what we're getting from the public out there.
I would tell you, we've been losing money for 6 years and we've been running as thin as we can right now.
And there's gotta be some cost savings somewhere.
And not that anyone is gonna wanna hear this, I would tell you, we need to increase. We have a $1.3 million tank project that we should have done 2 years ago. We haven't done it now. I mean, this is for utility, this is people's water. And so I appreciate it and we can go through every line on it and you can.
Well, that's your job. I mean, you have to
Oh,
present,
yeah.
yes, we can cut this, there's gotta be areas. I mean, we're asking people in the general fund to cut. I mean, I think you have to show where you're cutting also.
And that's where I'd say we've been cutting for 6 years. But we've been running negative balances for.
Well, you've been running negative balance.
So we every year, we do a 5-year capital budget and every year we just push those 5-year projects back. We never do any of them because we don't have the money.
And here's my other problem. You know, you're asking that you need this much for a rate increase this year, but in fact, don't you have a plan for a rate increase for next year? So I think we have to be honest with that too. I mean, you know, we as a board have to know where you need to be because you've already kind of structured in a rate increase for the following year.
So I would say.
Haven't you?
Information, that would not be correct. So what I'm saying is 2025
Well,
rates, this is where
I don't
we,
want to interrupt you. How come I went to a public hearing the other night and it has a different rate structure than what you're offering?
That was a sanitary sewer project.
Right.
so
These are
we're
water.
all talking
Oh,
about.
Yeah, these are water rates.
But if we don't need a rate increase for water next year?
If we got no bulk water increases, we would not need an increase. Now, do we believe MBSD might raise their rates? I mean, that's what we're hearing. So if MBSD were to raise their rates to Niles, Niles would then increase the rates to us. So it would leave us in the same situation.
Yes, so we're gonna come in and if we raise this, we're gonna take a big hit and then we have to go back next year and raise it again.
Well, Commissioner, it's just gonna be passed through.
I understand
Pass-through
that,
increases if
but
we had to.
but nothing's been passed through for the last 10 years.
Right, so that's what we wanna do is get to this rate that it's gonna get us back on.
That's
Square-
easy for you to
square
say, but
ground.
it's not
But then-
easy for me to do.
Okay, but then when the bulk, do the pass-throughs and keep up with it. As they come through. And because we consolidated the water districts. It won't have to be a penny for penny increase, but let's say now it increases their rate to us by 10 cents per 1,000. We have to take that and see, well, how many gallons of that did they buy? And since we're on a county rate where we also get water from Warren, New Falls, and Youngstown, it will not be, now it increases 10 cents per 1,000. Maybe we only have to do 6 cents on ours, but that's one of the, gives you some resiliency there when you're consolidated, when you have all the districts consolidated financially.
I think what's happened here that we're overlooking. We went for many years without a rate increase, and I think we can all agree. It wasn't because the sanitary engineers said we didn't need one. We did not have rate increases, I believe, for political reasons. Past boards didn't want to raise rates during whoever's year it was that they were going to run for election. The main reason I think Howland never got a rate increase as much as everybody else, why they were at 6.5 or whatever it is because there's a lot of voters in Howland, and I think the people on the board said, let's stick it to the guys in Kinsman and let's stick it to the guys in the outlying areas because we don't want to piss Howland off because Howland's got a lot of voters and so is the next one up for election. So I firmly believe, I've only been in this game for 2 years, but I could see how political influence when it comes to things like this, how to play. That doesn't mean it's right, but I also see that I know personally from my short time here that there was some pressures on Gary and the rest of the crew to not raise rates because again, we had 2 commissioners up for election that didn't want it, didn't want to pass it on, didn't want to be the board that bit the bullet, and they kicked the can down the road to us. Now we have the tough decision here. Do we start from scratch here and do everything right like we're doing, just like Board of Elections just did their getting on the rate thing and look at the past sins and stop it and be the board that stops this stuff? Or do we as a board kick it down the road potentially to the next board again? I don't believe they're lying to us that we're gonna be run short in the water department. And I did tell them last year, tighten everything you can. If it means going to one letterhead and there were some cost cuts last year by combining districts that made things more standard somewhat for them to be able to do a thing without having to go in and expend the thing with each individual 7 districts or whatever it was within the one district. So I think they did what they were told to do, and now they're here, and I believe what they're telling us now. We either got to believe and do and act somehow, or we do it the past 6 boards have done, or 5 boards, and we kick the can down the road and say it'll be someone else's problem in 2 years, 4 years.
And I'm sure to tell you, it's gonna be 3 or 4 months.
And I wish,
It's not.
and I wish before it would be put on the vote though. I wish you guys, and when I say you guys, I mean sanitary engineers, just like we're trying to educate these elected officials on our budget. You guys would send something to the trustees, get on the road and attend every trustee meeting and market something before it's brought to us. Because you bring it to us next week and we act in one certain way, we're the bad guys. If you get to these trustees that are doing these resolutions, you know, I went to Bezzettas and stood up for it myself and said, hey, you know, what do you want us to do? You got water line on Elm Road, you got the new Amazon project, you need water and sewer. You know, we're doing everything we can. Our department is functioning, providing service. There's a cost for that service that we can't ignore. It's not free. Maybe we need to do that, or like I said, send you guys out to do that to every township that may be facing a rate increase. And do that, lay down the groundwork first, get the township trustees involved, ask their opinion on what they would like to see, and let them give you an answer, or at least have the discussion, so they see, wow, these commissioners really are against a rock and a hard place. You know, while they really don't want to raise rates on us, but what else are we to do if we want to keep the same service for the essential nutrient of life, water, you know, that we all need? And we look at other states, we look at other areas. It is a pretty good deal. City of Youngstown gets water from the same place that we do, and they're paying, I believe it was
$2 higher.
$2 higher than what we're asking for to get to, and they get the water from the same source as us. They pass that on to their customers, and they're paying way more than we are for our whole county. So I'm not saying that I don't want to pass any increases. I know you don't, Mr. Hernandez, I know Mr. Bernard, we all don't want to do that. We don't want to be the board that does that, but we also want to be the board that is the responsible board that ends corruption, that ends sins of the past, that ends political influence for decisions that are made on the good of the public or on behalf of the taxpayers. We want to be the responsible board going forward. That's what I want my legacy to be, is a guy that made the decisions for the right reasons and not decisions because he felt political pressure to get reelected. So he kicked the can down the road to the next guy. That's my 2 cents worth.
Any commissioners?
My problem is how we got here though.
It's mine too.
You know, everybody knew from the sanitation engineers that we needed a regulator, and they've known that for years, okay? And then when Mr. Hernandez and myself come in, we're here 7 days and we walk in and they throw it down and say, this is an emergency. It's been an emergency. And
well, it's been an emergency, but they had a savings account.
but I think, you know, you want to talk about politics. I think some politics were playing out there, and that's why they didn't bring it in. Okay, so you know, I agree with you. We need to end politics. All right, a lot of things up here were politically motivated. Okay, and but I just don't like the way we got here and how fast we got here, because this has been ongoing for a long time, and they all knew it. And that goes back to me where, you know what, they should come in here and say, these are the cost savings. You know, there's cost savings out there. You may not want to say it, but you know what, you're gonna have to do it. That's my 2 cents.
Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineer. Commissioner, regarding cost savings, I'm still trying to search where we can.
Well, let's start at the top and work the way down. I mean, I'm not out there with the budget, but you're gonna, you know, we're gonna have to make hard decisions, and you guys are gonna have to make hard decisions. You know, you're gonna have to say, does everybody want want 150 bottles of water, yes, but maybe you can only have 2 bottles of water. So you're gonna have to look at everything, and you're gonna have to make some cuts in there too. You know, everybody's gonna have to make hard decisions and hard cuts. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and I guess that's where, when I'm saying 60% of our budget for water is bulk water. If we weren't to do anything this year, it's gonna be 62 or 63%. So the bulk water costs are increasing, our maintenance materials, replacing hydrants, replacing meters, replacing valves, all of those have doubled since COVID. So when we're saying we are reducing costs, instead of having 200 meters sitting in our garage, like waiting, holding an inventory, we now have 20 of them. And we try to order more often because we're keeping our inventory lower. I mean, everything that we deal with has gone up significantly. And that's what I'm saying, projects, improvements to our system, and I'm saying the county-owned water system, those are the things we're not doing that we probably should. And I mean, no utility company wants to stand up here and tell you we're deferring maintenance and we're delaying maintenance. That's exactly what we've been doing. So instead of me coming here and telling you, okay, we have a $1.3 million project to do that we don't have the money for, that we're gonna have to take a loan for. ODOT was here talking about the $400,000, we don't have the money for that. Gary was looking at taking on debt to do that if we end up having to pay for it. So we've been kicking until they tell us to, ODOT's coming here telling you guys they need to do the project. We'll have to go get a OWD.
How does that person out there on a fixed income that's getting $20,000 a year, how are they gonna, take these rate increases? And you're gonna be out there in a month or two turning off their water. What are we supposed to tell them? I mean, we're all getting phone calls. I don't know if you're getting them, but all the commissioners, I mean, we're getting them every day, 3 or 4 or 5
Commissioner, with all
a
due
day.
respect, Niles isn't giving us a discount because we give
Well,
water
I
to all
understand,
people.
I know, I understand that, but you know what, you know, they want me to tell that person on fixed income, you know, that their water bill's gonna go up $40, $50, $60 a month. And how are they gonna do it?
Well, so, I mean, the rates that it'll go up is $12 to $25 a month, depending on usage. But we get those calls all the time, even before the rate increase, of people that are on a fixed income and have trouble, and people that are up against situations that none of us have to deal with. We work with 6 charity groups. So if someone calls in and can't pay their bills, we work with them the best we can to not shut people off. The vast majority of our shutoffs are not related to income issues, they're related to some other situations.
Gentlemen, we have another meeting off-site that we're all gonna need to get to, but I guess the final word that I have on this is you asked if we should bring it next week. I'll tell you, in my opinion, I think you know the opinions of maybe the rest of the board. If you bring it next week, you're bringing it into a firing squad. So I would say I would think twice about bringing it over the hill when you know there's Indians over the hill waiting for you. I would do something a little better to soften the blow with trustees to help us help you in this situation by reaching out to those communities first, educating them as best you can. Seeing again, one more checklist. Let's see if there's anywhere else you can have cost cuts. Then come to us and say, here's what we did. Here's who we talked to. We did our due diligence. We've laid the groundwork down and everyone understands why. So that when they come to bash us, if that's a decision we have to make, they already heard it from the source of why we have to do this and why that is. But don't leave it on us to do the why, or I can't say that you're gonna get the outcome you want.
Well, and I'd say I did that with Administrator Pantalone before he came here. And when I got off the phone with him, he did not say anything about the restaurant coming from Howard, saying they were against it. And after talking to me, there was a resolution that they were going against it. So I'm not sure that I had any impact.
No, you didn't go and talk at a public meeting in front of some of the residents and their trustees and get enough of their people to understand it. Because the ones that don't understand it are gonna be the ones making comments that are uneducated about why.
I haven't talked to anybody that understands it.
I agree.
I mean, they all say it's political, you know, the can's been kicked and kicked and kicked. And now you got this large rate increase that's coming, and you know,
I mean, and I think we will need, after this is all said and done, a resolution of some sort that as the costs come into us, it just automatically pass through what it is. And so we never have to deal with this every couple of years again of things. As the costs come through us from the provider, that should be something baked into it. It should have been baked into it 15 years ago.
Yes.
And I don't understand why it wasn't, other than for whatever reason, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago,
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
It's been political.
You know, that it's been that same way, and they're gonna say the same thing now. If we don't make a decision here, they're gonna say our board was political and we kicked it down the road because nobody wanted to put the political thing on the line.
Well, political or looking out for the people, there's a difference.
And I'm sure past boards would have said they did the same thing. We're looking out for the people. We had a savings. We didn't, we made them use their savings first.
Tough right now, okay, and if you're talking to people, they'll tell you, I mean, we all get them, they can't afford it. You know, and what are we supposed to do?
No, all we can do is the right thing. And what the right thing is may be different to each of us, but I think for the public that we serve, we gotta make them know and understand as best we can. They can't all be water biologists, they can't all be engineers, but they have to understand, man, 15 years without a rate increase. That they're pretty damn lucky that they didn't have to pay that for the last 15 years. They should have been. And that same person on a fixed income would still be paying the same amount right now. It sounds like if it would have been covered over the past years, but because they didn't, I understand it's everyone's like, well, not me, make it wait another couple of years, you know, and I don't know that we can.
All right,
Like they said, I think we're at the edge of the cliff.
we're gonna get delinquent on the bills.
So we don't want that. We don't want to affect our credit rating with anybody. We don't want to affect,
Wouldn't they have been delinquent 2 years ago if they wouldn't have combined all the water districts?
no, they still had a savings at
I
that
mean-
point.
I
They
mean-
still had
I
a
mean,
savings
They
account.
did that so they could put all the money together, right?
Yes.
Isn't that why that was done? I mean,
Yeah.
you guys knew there was a money issue and you guys basically kicked the can down the road for 2 more years.
Well, we did exactly what we're telling them to do now. Tighten your belt, combine services, come up with wherever you could save costs and save costs. They did that. They bought another year and a half. Now we're at that point, where the savings account is down lower. How much more blood can you squeeze out of that rock? We wrung that wash rag out pretty good.
They just used the money from all the districts. And that's, I kind of disagree with that.
Well, all the districts are getting charged differently for political reasons over the years too. And we all got to agree on that. There's a reason, the further away from Warren and Niles you got, the more you paid for a time frame. Because these politicians weren't dumb. They knew that they needed to keep Niles and Warren happy. And then you get Howland and Champion and some of the other urban belts. As long as those trustees aren't bitching, you get to keep your job as a county employee. And I mean, that's the elephant in the room that we need to realize happens and has happened in the past.
And Commissioner Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineer, as far as trying to make savings, that sort of thing, the duties of the water crews out there, that's pretty much set by statute. We have to take this many samples per day to get this much laboratory work done. Get out the copper, lead and copper testing and lab results on that. We had to send out a consumer confidence report. And just about everything that they do out there, it's covered by statute. There's really nothing you can cut on any of that as far as the work necessary to get that done. And I'd like to think that we are very efficient at satisfying all these responsibilities to have a public water system.
And I do know,
And the thing is that we have 7 of them. You look at the city of Niles, city of Warren, they have one. They have one set of reports that they have to run. We have to run for 7 different. But some of the ways that we can save in the future is that once that state road water project is put in out there, where we're gonna draw the water from Warren instead of Newton Falls, we can combine that Braceville district and that Champion Bezetta together, get us down to 6 districts. I also want to look at combining the Howland Water District with the Mosquito Creek Water District. One's fed by Warren, one's fed by Howland. we need to work something in that to try to get those combined, to get us down to, we're not running 7. Let's try to get it down to 3 or 4.
And
And I think now those are the kind of things we would be able to do if you want to be able to get some more efficiency and cut costs. We wouldn't have as many reporting requirements.
so,
But
Gary, not to interrupt you, I
Okay.
just, he's not talking about financially combining them, he's talking about operationally combining them. We have different water sources that have, that's why we have different public water systems. So he's saying to go from 7 to 5, that would be less reporting for us. to do,
Yes,
Based on
yes.
who provides the water.
Yes. And that would be the only avenue I can think of where we'd be able to get more efficient and try to save.
All I can say, I have well water. It sucks. I wish I had our water. I've never seen a boil alert in the townships that I've lived in. We've done a good job with providing good, clean water to the citizens. I have seen them in some other districts. I have seen them in some other areas where people have had not as good a water as what I believe our quality is. So we do a good job with the quality. We do a good job of getting water to the people. We've expanded services to get them water, which is, the most basic sustainable life essence, is we have good, clean water. There's parts of the country that wish to God they had water, and would pay, and there are parts of the country that pay way more than what we pay for clean water coming out of their spigot. Now, not that softens the blow for someone on a fixed income. It doesn't. They live here because they like the cheap rates of everything. And that's why they live in the Mahoning Valley. So I understand that. But these trustees and need to get to the citizens, let them know too. We don't want to cut back on any services, and we've got a business to run here too. We got a county to run. And where do we cut? Where do we cut? And how much do we eat cost wise? You guys have been eating costs for, like you said,
6 years.
the savings is gone. The savings account's gone that was there at one time.
So Commissioners Alex and Jency Bush, your guys' decision, you board of commissioners. But ultimately, at the end of the day, where I think that we're headed, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with anybody. But at the end of the day, you do hire me to do a job, and I'm here to tell you that if they can't pay for the water, one of two things is going to happen. Citizens of Trumbull County don't have water, or we go into debt, further debt, providing water. And they will be coming to the general fund and asking for monies that you are telling everybody else we don't have monies for, and we're trying to cut other public services potentially, right? Because we're all pulling from the same pot of general fund monies. That's as simple as I can.
Nobody disagrees with that.
So what do we do?
I disagree with how we got here.
Right. I understand that.
And that's my problem.
So is there a way, commissioners, that Bob, I don't know what more to say, but I clearly heard them tell you, it's probably a no again next week. And I'm hearing you say 30 days, is that the case?
Well, my goal was to have it implemented by March 1st.
I don't care about the goal, but I mean, like, when are we at a drop dead point where we're in fiscal
That
emergency?
payment would be,
Okay, so May.
so,
Well, it's a little bit more time than March at least. But
but then we're out. I mean, so the 1250 is giving us a few months to do that. So if the longer we delay it, the more that. Because we have to pay down debt.
so what other options are there? Like, what other options? So outside of the 1250, what are the other options that you can provide to the board?
2 options with general fund money and rate increase.
Can we do a lesser rate increase?
Well, and that's where I said Gary challenged me to go through it, and I got it to 1240.
And then, commissioners, something that you may need to think about then is, could you do a 50-50? If it's 1244, and I don't know, it's just, again, this is your board, I'm just, would the general fund be willing to subsidize? I don't know, some of that, a certain percentage, I don't know.
Well, here's the problem with that. We talked, if the board was truly made aware of that and they had some ARP money, they could have used some of that.
Right.
But they, once again, that wasn't brought to their attention, or if it was brought to their attention and they didn't do anything about it.
I'm by no means an ARPA expert, but I'm not sure the bulk water and employee costs can be paid.
Well, maybe not, actually, so technically employee costs, if there was a loss of revenue. If there was a loss of revenue, which is one of the categories of ARPA, I'm not talking Rogers here. I'm not.
But then we're taking other people's money to pay for the people that do use the water service.
Straight.
I'm a well guy, you're gonna take more of my ARPA money, not give me an ambulance and set up because you wanna pay for this guy's
I
bill.
mean, Commissioner, I agree with you, but you've done that with some small sewer projects where
Yeah.
you've taken some ARP money and used it on small sewer projects, so. You know, we already did that.
At the end of the day,
All I'm saying
it's all
is,
Trumbull County.
we
It's
should
Trumbull
have
County.
addressed this a lot sooner
I
than
agree.
what we did. And they put all of us in a bad situation. Okay.
I think we can all agree that.
And when's the last time that you guys came to the board commissioners and asked for a water rate?
2022.
Well, so we put it in 2022 and then Gary talked in 23, and I'm not sure you guys said even in 24.
So when did you present it to the board? When's the last time?
22. Well, the resolution, and I think you had a copy, was December of 22.
Right before I got here in 23, so the board right before me.
So you
Even
know,
after the election.
it was going down, and you never came here and said, look, guys.
Oh, no,
we got a
that's.
problem."
We've always told the commissioners that we were losing money.
Like you've done here to us,
We've never been in a financial situation that we're in.
but you knew we were gonna get there.
Yes, and I let the board know that, and I told them, Commissioner, I stood right there at that podium, and Commissioner Fresco said, well, what is going to happen with it? And I told her that it is going to run out of money. And I told all three of the commissioners that one day at the podium, and that was sometime in 23 or 24, I know that. I mean, this thing with the water rate, this has been discussed with the commissioners on and off here for the past 2 years.
And ultimately, the decision to go to MS Consultants was done in 21. So for the past 3 or 4
Yes,
years,
as
it's
soon
been
as
out.
I got control of the sanitary engineers department, I mean, almost immediately, that's one of the first things we did was get a rate study started.
But the bulk water costs drastically increased the last.
Since
3
that
years.
time, that bulk
And that-
has just been
So
going
that's
up
why
and up.
our loss last year, I mean, 6 years ago, our loss was
Last year was.
$20,000 and we had a carryover in the millions, so it wasn't an emergency. So last year, we had a loss of $1.5 million.
Did you come to the board last year and ask for a rate increase? No.
I'm looking to Gary, that's,
Well, I think that's what he was saying.
I'm sure you did.
in this manner, no.
That's where the politics.
And based on what they were saying from the comments that they are correct. She wasn't having it and.
It's not only her.
I understand.
And, you know.
It takes 2 votes to get something done.
Right.
Not that I really went way longer than I anticipated. I didn't mean to keep all your time. So you would, I guess it doesn't go on next week. You'd like us to try to talk to the trustees. Is that where?
That's what I'm asking. Because I can tell you, yeah, right now, I agree.
I think
Commissioner
the
Barnes.
trustees might be in the process of having a meeting with all of us. I think that might be out there. I don't know if that's been set up or not. You know, talking to the trustees is not gonna do any good. I mean, you can talk to them, but you know.
I understand because just the ones that are on our water system.
Commissioner, you mentioned something about a presentation or something that we would like to have a presentation for the trustees.
Right.
I mean, do we want to set up a date here? I could put together some sort of presentation to.
I was waiting for a couple
justify-
townships to get back to me because they have some questions. And it's not gonna make it any easier, but I think we need their questions answered too.
I could give a presentation and
I mean,
and let them ask questions at
we're
the
just
end
in
of
a
it.
hard situation. You guys put us between a rock and a hard spot, and you expect us to bail you out with just the stroke of the pen and this big rate increase, and that's a hard thing for me to do.
All right, well, Commissioner, I don't like to think that I put you into the.
Well,
Like, I've done everything I can to tell previous boards that we needed this. I can't think of anything more I could have done to try to prevent the situation we're in right now.
Probably a good idea if we could have a presentation to boards of trustees let them know, listen, here's what happened. It's not on this board, but here's what happened. And this is what you're looking at.
It's not the trustees as much as it's the general public that we have to pass this.
Yeah, but the trustees are leading that. When a township says we're against this on behalf of our citizens, and they never had the citizens
Liberty
vote on it.
Liberty was gonna make a resolution yesterday on both water rates and sales tax. I got a call from the news.
Yeah, Bezetta did the same thing, and I went to that meeting and said, well, there is nothing on the table for one. They didn't poll the citizens, that was the trustees making that
Until they
action.
see what our moves were gonna be.
Commissioners, I don't mean to interrupt, but you have a Geauga Trumbull solid waste. 15 minutes.
Right.
All right, well, when should I schedule this meeting regarding these rates? I mean, are we looking at something that? I'll have to get with Lisa. Would you like a Wednesday,
Because I've got so
Thursday?
much.
I mean, but here's the
Would it
thing,
be in the evening?
it's gotta be, and we gotta give these trustees time, they don't meet, a lot of them don't meet every single week, we gotta give them time to get it, on their schedule. If they really wanna do it, it's gotta be the ones that we service, the ones we don't service. Right.
Well,
But we need to get the education out there because, I'm still learning on this stuff and I guarantee these trustees, all they hear is increase and they want to do what's best. And you gotta think of it this way too. It's an election year for almost every trustee in the county this year. So right now they're hearing from their citizens. Do you think there's any trustees gonna put themselves in a position we've been in and say, yeah, we support a water rate increase for our residents and then run for trustee again?
Right. If I was a trustee, yeah, I would definitely be against any rate increase also.
Right.
Who wouldn't?
But that's not fair though, because we as Board of Commissioners aren't saying, we oppose your police levy you're putting up there. Don't tax the citizens of Trumbull County with more police protection, or we're against your fire levy that you're putting out there, but they're telling us, don't do your job.
I don't know if they're saying that or they're just saying how it's happened. I think that's the trustees that I've talked to is, they probably know there's gonna have to be some type of, it's just how it's gone for so long. That and that's my problem, and I think that's their problem, and that's a lot of the people out there, the taxpayers, that's their problem.
Right.
It's just.
But unfortunately, we can't go back to the previous sanitary engineer and previous commissioners and string them up.
But when a rate increase has been needed for 14 years and nothing's been done, then we have to look at somebody and somebody has that responsibility.
Right.
And it's not me and it's not Rick, because we weren't here. So it's everybody.
But I don't want people to say it's
But
been
it's
18
everybody
years
that's
now
been here.
and Rick and Tony and Denny didn't do
But it's
anything about it
everybody
either.
that's been here for the last 10 years or 12 years that didn't take care of it. Okay? Whether it's supervisors or boards of commissioners. Okay? You've only been here 2 years, so I can only blame you for 2 years.
Right, and they said the last presentation was in December before I got here.
Yeah, so you know what, I mean, so we have to make sure that it's clear. Okay, and there's a lot of people that, my opinion, that didn't do the responsible thing. Not all of them were politicians either. End of my statement.
Excuse me, Chair Mulligan. This is an outsider, knowing my trustees. You have to educate the public, not the trustees. They are not gonna pass anything on to people.
Well, I know.
I mean, I don't know how you do that, but going to the trustees is a waste of your time, I think.
No, it's just information so they'll know, and maybe they have some ideas. I mean, if I was a trustee, I wouldn't be for it. I'm a commissioner and I'm not for it.
I agree.
But you were here at the time.
He wasn't the sanitary engineer
That's
for the
right.
past 10 or 12 years. He just became the sanitary engineer.
Randy Smith was a sanitary engineer
In two- in
for a
2005.
long time that when we didn't raise rates. He wasn't the guy making the shots until after
Yeah.
COVID.
That is correct.
So when did he become sanitation engineer?
He was interim
2000.
for what, about 18 months, and then he became officially the sanitary engineer. 22
Yes,
It was
I-
out of the-
I'll
out of
look it up. Yes,
in July.
I think it was.
I have to look.
The 22, that's only a couple of years ago, and we were going back 14 years with no rate increase.
Yes.
Well, wasn't he engineer before that too, though?
What's that?
Wasn't you sanitation engineer before that?
He was,
From 2004 to 2007, I was a sanitary engineer. And then from 2007 to 17, I was a project planning director. And from like 17 to 22, I was either deputy sanitary engineer or interim.
And you became sanitary engineer interim in 20, that's when we started the
Right,
rate
yes.
process.
So he was engineer in 20, not 2022.
He was
Well,
interim.
Well,
Yeah.
as soon as I became
But
interim
that's-
is when I said,
And it
let's
was
get a
the
rate
end of-
study
it was the
done.
end of 20.
When,
It
as
was
soon as I became,
November of
as
20.
soon as I had the authority, let's put it that way, I had a rate study started, get the ball rolling, we gotta get this thing adjusted. But you also have to think back during that time that our end of year balances were not that bad. I think, we still had unencumbered balances at the end of the year of around $4 million across the districts. And it wasn't until these last few years that, oh, that end of year balance, now it's gonna be zero. We still had some buffer in there.
but we're
Yes.
going down.
Yes,
Every year we're
yes.
eating into that. We weren't going up.
But these last, this last 2024, that's when all the cities increased substantially, our highest percentage, and it pretty much has us wiped out.
We could talk about this forever.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Just a quick question, were we gonna be able to get the cards on? What?
Yeah, you
Cards
have
on-
to say your name.
I'm sorry, Mark Manning, Trumbull County Sheriff, were we able to get the cards on the agenda? And Bill, I think you sent me about them, not having, they sent me that code.
You have a fund for it, a fund number? That's really what I need to put in the agenda item. I need to know where it's being paid.
I mean, I don't think we should do anything until we get this budget thing figured
Yeah,
out too.
Exactly,
Because
that's
that's
all. And I saved it.
That's not, okay, yeah.
And then also Bill Danza.
Yeah, Bill Danzo, prosecutor's office, and we've been kind of trying to work back and forth. That so far, we haven't, in fact, I looked on the Ohio Buys website, we haven't found that State Line Ford is an Ohio state purchasing vendor. They provided a contract number to us that was for Montrose Ford, a different dealer, and now they've provided just sort of a vendor's license that they're authorized to do business in Ohio. What we would need to see from them is, we need to see their actual state of Ohio State Purchasing Department of Administrative Services contract number, if they have one. I suspect they may not have one. And this is bringing back a lot of memories about a purchasing issue we had for another department a few years ago that led to an audit problem. So I just kind of want to proceed with caution on this. Now, there are some other options that I've laid out with the sheriff's office. If this vendor is a part of any other purchasing group, there's a few of them out there that are kind of national or statewide associations that do purchasing. We can also look to see if this price is lower than the state purchasing price for another vendor. If so, we could go that route with some legal options, but we've got to work through that purchasing end before we contract with them for the purchase of these vehicles. Otherwise, we're going to be in some hot water, legally speaking.
Maybe we can talk to them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So maybe-
Well, the only thing I like about it is because it's 2024 vehicles that we can get at a reduced price.
Right.
And once those are gone, then they're gone.
I have it ready to go, so as soon
Yeah,
as we
so
get that
Bill,
worked out.
let's just get together and call them and see
We can do that.
what we have to do then to get this, it's kind of dropped my lap. So, okay.
We had an issue like this when I first started, and it led to an audit finding, like you said, and we got slapped on the wrist.
No, we don't, we need.
We do. I'll second that.
Mr. Bernard.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez.
Where are we supposed to go now?